What are we arguing about?
A man is gonna do what a man wants to do.
Yes, all on your wrist. Make you my wife, you no longer my bitch.
Let's get it. My name is Will. I'm the host of this show, the number one Polynesian podcast in the world.
Dripping in Versace. All these other hoes trying to copy.
Women tend to bounce around in relationships. They can't stick and stay in a long-term relationship.
Again, don't agree with this.
So let's say, are you still in it? Are you still in it?
No. So you're basically saying I'm a whore.
This content is not suitable for the children under the age of 18 without adult supervision. Please be advised.
So I just wanted to take the time and make this video to apologize to absolutely nobody. What's up, everybody? Welcome to another session of the Kava podcast Masculinity session, where we focus on male masculinity, self-improvement, and purpose. Live out of San Francisco, and of course, you already know Barometer, live out of San Francisco, New Zealand. Happy New Year's 2024 for those. If you, I know I've been gone for about 2 weeks, and if you're just tuning into my live shows to catch me back on the pod, Happy New Year's, everybody out there. Hope you have your goals, big plans for this year, 2024. But nevertheless, I'm back on the grind, back to all my weekly shows every single Thursday for the Masculine Mind. So as always, if you're tuning in, appreciate you guys always supporting the channel. If you find value in the content, don't forget to smash that like and subscribe button real quick. And of course, this is a live show, so if you're tuning in for the very first time, the link is in the description of the video. So if you want to jump on, the fellas and the ladies, if you want to jump on and be part of the show, click on that link. It's in the description of the video, and you'll be able to jump on and join the pod. So definitely would love to hear from more fellas out there so we can come together and figure out solutions, strategies, and things, especially for our purpose and our journey as men, and the things and obstacles that we go through in life. And of course, for the ladies, I know a lot of you guys, especially on Instagram, you always reach out to me, asking me about questions related to men. So the Masculine Mind podcast would be perfect for you ladies to come on if you want to ask us questions and to discuss the experiences that you're trying to figure out with the men in your lives. So always appreciate you guys, always supporting the channel. Jump on, click on that link, and come on. And of course, if you do have, if you want to share your POV, your voice, and your opinion, and you want me and Balafesta to hear it, definitely drop it through a super chat. I'll be able to put it on the screen, read it out for you, and share it for the whole entire audience to see. So, appreciate you guys always supporting me financially with your super chats. Every single donation goes back to the channel, so I can create the best quality content for you guys. All right, so appreciate you guys as always, and of course, the best way to support me will be to subscribe to my locals community page. That's the best way to support me. A lot of perks on there, exclusive content, and of course, one of the perks, you'll be able to jump on as a public guest on my Friday night and Saturday night live podcast, where I invite guests into the studio, and you'll be able to include yourselves with our conversations with my live guest in studio. So as always, appreciate you guys who are subscribers and members of my locals community page. But nevertheless, that's pretty much all my YouTube stuff. I appreciate you guys for always watching and tuning in. And we have a topic for tonight to start off 2024 and get it going is do men need marriage? But before we go into the content, Professor, thank you for always jumping on and being part of the Masculine Mind. If you want Happy New Year's 2024 to you, even though that doesn't mean nothing to us. It's just another day back on the grind. But yeah, if you want to go ahead and give yourself a quick intro for everybody out there, go ahead, Toko.
Yeah, look, a prosperous new year to you, Will, and to everyone who's listening in. I think 2022 and 2023 for us being part of this essentially this endeavor for the masculine mind has, I guess, put our faces and names in these YouTube streets. And although the fame has not dwindled in, but yeah, for me, look, I'm Paolo. I'm coming to you live from New Zealand, and I am someone who is a big proponent of men. And when I look at our capabilities as men, I can't help but wonder and marvel at the things that we're capable of. And then when I consider the entirety of our existence and relationship, the beauty that a man and a woman brings and to create a healthy relationship is something that I guess drives the cogwheels of my brain, and it makes me look forward to all the different nuances that it involves. And yeah, I think for me, being a proponent of men is the reason why I am the way that I am, and that has been driven far beyond my father, who instilled those values to me, and to credit his father and so on and so forth. So I think as Pacific Islanders, we can credit at least our ancestors for a lot of the ways that we look at life. Our tenacity comes from that. And although this doesn't strictly tie into Pacific Islander per se, but it's I can credit that to those who come before me. So I guess I'm one of few now who are holding a torch to a society who wants to break down cornerstones that was once revered as the foundation of any society, I should say. So yeah.
Yeah. It's been what, 2 years since we started the Masculine Mind, Toko?
Yeah, it has been. Yeah.
Yeah, man. It's been quite a journey for both of us. I think the Masculine Mind podcast has definitely helped. I know you've definitely helped me on my YouTube journey. Your advice and the things that, especially when it comes to content making and how I present myself as a man on the channel. But I remember I was watching a podcast and it was talking about how it's important for men to have a tribe or a group, to be surrounded with other strong men. And I think that's one of the things I appreciate about the podcast, and of course, the opportunity to be able to connect with you, have open discussions with you, to share your thoughts, and also bounce back ideas. When I'm trying to figure out things from my life, I can reach out to you, and then we can have conversations about what we go through as men. I think it's important as men, especially if you're looking to become a better man or become a better version of yourself. I think it's important to surround yourself with men who have the same vision, morals, values, goals, or journeys that you're looking to walk in. And it's unfortunate, the issues and the problems that we see with a lot of young men. And I do see it not only on the internet, but also I see it in real life, that a lot of these guys are by themselves, and they don't really have whatever, a big brother or a mentor or somebody they can look up to, and they can kind of give them that advice, and which usually comes from our fathers. But as we all know, Western society, the nuclear family is collapsing. So the reality is, for a lot of guys, that they don't really have that the masculine role model. So that's one of the things I do appreciate it. I appreciate this Masculine Mind, and it's just bouncing back with you and all the guys that have come on the podcast. Sialsi, Joe, all the other guys have come on and just bouncing back ideas. Because we all go through for all men, we're all gonna go through the same problems. For most of us, whether it's relationships, health, finances. But it's just I think it's a great asset to have when we go through these things. You don't have to really learn it the hard way, but you can just bounce back ideas from other guys in your group, in your tribe, and they can, especially people or men who are already more accomplished or better than you, and then they can give you that strategy or that tool. So the Masculine Mind is something that's even though there's not a lot of notoriety, a lot of people don't really. I don't really have a lot of people watching this show. This show is not really I don't really, I mean, the audience or the numbers, but this show for me is it's more about, I enjoy it for myself. It's just the opportunity to not only talk, connect with you, but opportunity to kind of create that tribe of men. And it's definitely, I can see the differences and how the last 2 years when we started the Masculine Mind and how it definitely has helped me improve in all things, in all aspects of my life, to learn, to grow. So regardless of where this mastermind goes, I'm still going to do it regardless anyway, because the lessons and the things that we discuss on this podcast, how it impacts our lives, I think that's the wealth for me, regardless of how, you know, the audience or the subscribers or the views for this particular show. But it definitely has helped me in the last 2 years. So that's why I love doing it. I love connecting with you, and we're gonna keep moving with this show. And highly implore and encourage a lot of the men out there watching this right now to jump on and reach out to us, whatever it's, especially if you can jump on as a public guest, or just reach out to us, to me and Balafessa on our social media platforms. You have to, at this point, especially in this time, 2024, you know, with a lot of men being alone, you have to go out there and start finding strong men to surround yourself with. It's become a necessity, especially for today's generation. So, yeah, looking forward for a great 2024 and more people we're going to try to invite. I think my plan for 2024, I was discussing with Balafessa, is to invite more established guests, you know, people that I would consider strong, masculine mind leaders, fathers, provider, protectors, men out there who are living in their purpose. I'm gonna invite more and more of them to collab with for our show. So definitely, for the people that do watch, the very few, I may not know who you are, but I definitely want to improve the show, because not only for my audience, for my YouTube channel, but especially for me, it's definitely gonna help me. So I love doing this show. But
the caveat, or I should say, I think the purpose of Masculine Mind, and when it was just an idea, I think for you and I, was the whole idea is resharpening the instinct of a man.
Yeah.
That's the whole idea of Masculine Mind. And the reason for that is when we looked out, especially when we were involved in the early days of the podcast, when we look out into society at a greater scope, we started noticing patterns of where man's instinct has been dulled to the point that we've become subservient. Yeah. We become subservient to whatever system that we belong to. We became subservient to a lot of rhetorics. Feminism have been thrown around into that mix. And we have, as men, we have become subservient to a lot of these things that we now, in a new era where men will voluntarily lay down without a fight, and men will voluntarily lay their principles and their values on the ground in order for them to get pleasure, or however else their pursuit may be. So again, if you're tuning in and you're wondering, what the hell are these two guys talking about? What the hell is a masculine mind? That's essentially it. The whole idea of masculine mind is to resharpen the instinct of a man, to put us all back into a mind frame of we're a men, and our characters are developed from the values and principles that we are. Right? So the things that we consistently practice, that's where masculine mind is. And when we speak on a lot of the ideas of how men should be and how we define men, that's all it is. The state of manhood in society, people may look at it and go, oh, society is not crumbling. So there's this notion that society is not going anywhere, the man is not going anywhere. That's great, but you're looking at a ticking time bomb. What your reference points are the men who are going to soon be dead. You're not referencing the children who are growing up now, especially the young men who are growing up now. The greatest challenge a man could ever endeavor to fulfill and to be successful in is in the child he bears. And in order to bear a child, and in order to fulfill that challenge, he must go through it with a woman. So it touches on our main point. Why is marriage important to men? Because that is your one most singular purpose on this earth. If you want to go through the science route, whether you go through the religious route, that is your great single challenge and purpose as a man, is to figure out how to pass on the values and principle you are as a man to another being long before you're gone. You can stand there, and this is how I gauge people's value system. If I'm standing toe to toe with a man and we're arguing back and forth, clashing of values, the single question I go back to, how strongly do you believe in those values? And will you pass it on to another human being of your own creation? That's how I gauge how genuine people are with their value system.
Yeah.
Are you willing to pass it on? Is it that robust that you're willing to pass it on, or is it only robust for you? So, I mean, I touched briefly on the topic, but yeah, there is no greater challenge than a woman. And it presents that challenge because our drive as men is to pass on our legacy to children that we bear and look after and mold.
Yeah, definitely. I know a lot of, I think we've been doing this for 2 years, and people who watch our channel, and then there's a lot of people who are aware of the red pill and the manosphere, but I think we see a lot of rhetoric online that are pushing men away from relationships long term and from pursuing meaningful relationships for women. And I think that's the root cause for a lot of the issues what men are going through is, and that's why the conversation I wanted to bring up this conversation. Do men need marriage? Because the overwhelming content I see online is pushing men not to pursue anything long term. But whether it's religion, biology, I just think men and women we're better together than apart. And I do agree that a lot. The life of a man is suffering. And the way I see it is there has to be something, a purpose behind the suffering that we're going to go through to make it all worthwhile. And for me, the only thing that makes sense for me as a man is to be able to be with a woman, start a family, create a legacy, and pass it on to my children so they can give them a better life. I mean, that's the only thing that makes sense to me to make everything I'm going through as a man, the risks, the challenges, the obstacles I'm trying to pursue for myself. That's the only thing. No, it's not money. It's not notoriety. It's not fame. It's not status. The only thing that makes sense for me is that this is everything I'm going through as a man to make it worthwhile is a family. And it's sad to me to see a lot of guys who are going through this process or this journey that we all go through as men, the suffering that we go through and the struggles we go through, but not to have a purpose, not to pursue a family, not to pursue a legacy, not to have children. That's tough. I mean, I'm just trying to imagine that to experience the things and the challenges that we go through as men, not to have a reason or meaning behind it. Man, that's like Joe Rogan said on this podcast, that's like quiet desperation. Man, I just couldn't fathom that. If I was doing all of this for nothing, if I was just doing all of this for nothing beyond myself, I wouldn't be doing it if it wasn't for a purpose for our family. So it'd be interesting to hear if you're watching. For all the live viewers watching right now, let me know on the live chat. I see MZ Carol 626. Always a pleasure. Good to see you, 2020. Good to see you again, MZ Carol, and I hope you're doing well. I know with your cancer, so I hope everything's going well for you, and wish you the best for 2024. But yeah, let me know in the live chat what you guys think. Don't be a ninja watcher. Don't be a creep. Participate and let me know what you guys think. And of course, if you want to share your POV, drop it through a super chat. And if you do want to jump on as a public guest, click on that link and jump on. But we'll go right into it. Do men need marriage? So as I was preparing for the topic, for this topic, I saw a video and an article online about why it's necessary, why it's worth it for men to pursue marriage. So I'm just gonna put the article up real quick for you guys to see, and I'm just gonna it's 5 reasons why marriage is important for men. And me and Balafesta will kind of discuss all the reasons, and then we can just continue on with the discussion beyond that article. But so let me just please share my screen real quick. So this was the article I saw. We hope you guys can see it. All right. 5 reasons why marriage is so worth it for men. So it said on this article, said the men who are married, they live longer. Married men make more money. Married men have better sex and get much more of it. Married men have better overall health, especially heart health. And then married men behave better. All right. So it was just it was interesting to read that article, Toko. And I saw a video online talking about it, because me and you have been doing this for about 2 or 3 years now, and then a lot of the problems that we see today, especially with the men, are a lot of the problems that article provides for the reasons why men should pursue women. You know, we know that men are suffering physically. You know, I know the obesity rate in America is about 40-50%. So a lot of men are out of shape, not in good health. I know there's studies out there that show that a lot of men are alone. They don't have a lot of friends. A lot of men are not. They're voluntarily single. A lot of guys out there not getting access to women, and a lot of men are not getting access to sex from women, and a lot of the mental health, and then of course men, the suicide rate is going up. So there's a lot of things that we see that men are going through, and it's increasing every single year, especially for 2024. So when I was reading that article, it made sense to me, that if men are not going to pursue women, if men are going to pursue long-term relationships, if men are not going to pursue creating a legacy and passing on their genes to have children, then it's kind of going to be a concern what the outcome is for our future, for the future of society in general, if all these problems are going to keep occurring, especially when a lot of men are not going to put in the work to be accountable and take the responsibility to actually start a family. So I know the conversation is, I think from that article, even though I already believe that men do need marriage. I think marriage is a necessity for men, but I think also marriage is also a necessity for society and civilized and society to continue to thrive. Because I do believe the family is a foundation of society. So if we're going to have a generation of men that are not going to pursue a family, the way I see it is it's gonna be a lot of instability. It's gonna destabilize the very foundation that we have now. So, but what's your thought when you saw that article? What's your general thoughts about the 5 reasons why men need marriage?
So this is where there's a big divide, and I think this is where society is becoming more and more self-serving than they are to look at society as a whole. A lot of those 5 reasons are all to do with individual. And you touch on a very important factor that earlier on is the idea of camaraderie, right? The life of a man is lonely, and life is suffering. And the antidote for life suffering for a lot of men is purpose and camaraderie. Is to have a purpose, and not only that, share that purpose with other men who stand beside you. What we're seeing now is a divide, and it's a big divide between men and standards of men. We no longer agree on what the standard is, And the standard that is quite detriment to men in general is being developed and it's being practiced by men that other men revere. So if you do a comparison, so let's look at David Goggins. I would consider him a man with great standards. But when we compare it to, say, R&B or hip-hop artists, when we do the comparison of who's revered the most, we tend to falter towards artists who spread messages that are detriment to men in society, right?
Yeah.
And people can say, oh, look, it's just music or whatever the hell it is, right? But I had this conversation with a panel not too long ago. You don't need all men to agree. That's a false narrative that we're trying to... The reason why we're pushing ourselves apart is that, I can't get all men to agree, so why should I bother? I should just focus on me and move along. You don't need all men. You just need the leaders of what most men revere to stand in the standards that you want to promote. And what you'll find is that women will naturally gravitate towards them. You can see this if you go back to high school. You can see this in the jocks. The reason why the jock is famous is not because the girls flock to him. It's because he's revered. And he's revered by a vast majority of the male or the men in that group, which inherently gravitates women towards them. So when we look at the reasons, the 5 reasons, yes, positive, all positives. And if you're looking at it in an individual basis, those positives definitely comes from marriage, and it comes from marriage that both people are working on. But the bigger picture is that when we look at society in general, and when we sit here and debate, go back and forth in terms of our values and standards, why do we do it? There has to be a degree of belief in the reason why we believe the things that we do. And that belief needs to be carried on further. This is where, when we consider all the bad things that are happening in terms of ideologies, let's use the alphabet community for one. When we look and analyze the way that they are indoctrinating children, the reason why they might be see it as winning is that they're passing it on to the children. Yeah. This is why they're attacking the children at a large... they're putting a big effort into the children, and not only that, that's why they're the loudest. If you believe so wholeheartedly in the things that you believe in, you must pass it on to children. And that's a double-edged sword, because how do we determine which one is right or wrong? That's where history comes into play. We can make an analysis based on what history has done over the eons we've been here, or the millions of years that we've been here, and make that deduction. And what it's shown is that pair bonding, male to female pair bonding, has been the cornerstone of society. We now call it marriage. That's been the evolution of it, but it's pair bonding, right? So I agree. I agree with those. Points or those 5 benefits to why men should get married. But men should get married for their purpose. Your purpose is to extend your influence through your values and principles. And it is what makes life meaningful for you. Men who live in quiet desperation have no purpose, or believe they have no purpose. Right? So, unfortunately, the way that modern day era has made a lot of things that we used to struggle to attain so much convenient with the idea of money is why we're so stuck in our little pockets of isolation. And it's even more important now that we find camaraderie in the men that we surround ourselves with, and really sit down and go through these ideas of what a man should be. And the reason why we're discussing this, and the reason why this podcast in itself is in existence, is because we no longer have that instinct of I am a man. We no longer have that instinct. So we have to sit down and discuss these things and reacquaint people with the reason, or with the way that we are. I use this term, or I use this statement very often, but it's very much true. The gauge of how far men have fallen for me is the idea of a man having a curfew and being put upon him by the woman that's meant to be his extension. Most married men have curfews. And that should tell you the condition of a man. I am not saying a man should be willy-nilly with his time. He should put his time appropriately to the things that are important to him, and definitely family is important to him. But it's being enforced by the woman.
Yeah.
And I've been questioned so many times. I don't call my wife don't call me after work. I give her a ring if I'm late. Look, don't wait up, or whatever it is. Don't wait up. And I get the question of, oh, don't you have to be home by a particular certain time? No, I will be home when I get home. Yeah. If I'm needed here, I'm needed here. If I'm needed at home, I'm needed at home. And that's one of the barometers I use in terms of how far we've fallen in terms of our instinct as men. You know, this idea of crying. Why the hell am I crying when I'm capable of doing things? That's not my solution. Oh, you're suppressing your emotion. No, I'm maintaining a level of regulation in the way I look at life. Not everything deserves my tears. Not everything deserves my sadness. Not everything deserves my anger. I allocate those things to where it matters most. And I know this is going to sound very broken very soon, because I will use this very often. The idea of masculinity to me is the fine thread that is between a man's nature and his ability to control and manifest it when he sees fit. That's what masculinity is. It is your nature and your ability to regulate, maintain, and manifest those things at its appropriate time. Either we become beast, or we become so dull that we just lay down and give up and be subservient to anything, or we are able to go in between the two. And that's the idea of masculinity. So when we look at the benefit of a man being married, the benefit is it is your greatest challenge. This is your greatest challenge as a man, is to submit a woman who is going to be your extension first and foremost, and not only that, bear the children that you should pass your value system to. That used to excite men because things like integrity, honor, and courage and bravery used to be a standard among men. It no longer excites us because we can't agree on those things at all. Which is why you will always hear us, if you're listening, speaking on the idea of the art of man. Accountability, resilience, and discipline. These are the things that foster honor. These are the things that foster courage, bravery, integrity in a man. And if we have seen in time and time again and say a man who fosters those four things by the practice of three things, which is the art, then that is a man that we are willing to look up to. If that is the case, then why don't we pursue those things? So that's my soliloquy in terms of when it comes to that. I am a man, therefore I will be. And I cannot be any other way other than be a man.
I know why you said the greatest challenge a man is ever going to face is a woman. Now, if, depending on which spectrum of the people, if they hear that quote or what you just said, a lot of men may disagree, especially the men with the red pill. But I was kind of digesting that as you spoke that, because a lot of the arguments for a lot of guys is that would disagree with you would say well, the men who are pursuing success, pursuing their goals, pursuing their endeavors, that's more challenging than a woman, than pursuing a woman that's going to be an extension of you, and that she's gonna respect you, and you guys are gonna build a strong family. I was thinking about when you just said that. I will have to agree. I will have to agree. Pursuing your goals and dreams and the things you want to accomplish as a man, is that going to be more challenging than pursuing a woman that will definitely look up to you, respect you, and you guys are going to build a strong family and legacy? I would agree with you to say. At first, I disagree when I heard that, and we said the greatest challenge a man will ever face is a woman. Then I took a step back and kind of looked at it. Yeah, I think it is more difficult to build a strong family and have and choose a good woman, and you guys to build a strong relationship and create a good legacy with your children. Then personal success and personal success for yourself as a man, because there's a lot of examples of men who are very successful personally with their own lives, but their family, but they're failing. When it comes to their relationships, when it comes to their family and their children, they kind of fail at that aspect. So that was because I do hear because we see online content with the manosphere and the red pill, and they always say that whenever the conversation comes about relationships or the well-being or the concern or the opinion of their woman, they're always saying, "Oh, doesn't really matter," because what men do and what and their success and what they bring to the table, that's a lot harder to accomplish. So you don't really need to worry about your relationship as a woman. Your woman should just be there, exist, and just appreciate for you even choosing her, because what you're doing is really, really hard. But that kind of changed that kind of had me thinking in my mind about that the greatest obstacle or challenge that a man is ever going to go through is a woman, not his goals, not the things he's trying to build. It's that's going to be I would like to have that conversation, especially with the guys that who disagree. That the greatest challenge a woman's ever, the greatest challenge a man's ever gonna face is as a woman. Because to build a long lasting marriage and have good children and create a good legacy. Yeah, you don't really see that as much today compared to the personal success of men. Now, there's a lot of men out there who are very successful, but if you try to find men that we look up to, like you said, the men that we revere, has strong standards, and also has a good woman that's an extension of him and his standards, and they have a good relationship, a good long-term marriage, and they build a good family and children. I would argue that I don't really see that example as much as I see men who are very successful or just doing well in their life. So yeah,
and people don't quite understand that whole notion of why the hell is a woman the greatest challenge of a man.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you why. Everything else in life, it bears its fangs before it comes for you. Your professional endeavor, your career, your sports, your athletic pursuits, whatever that is, those things bear its fangs. And you know what the process is in overcoming those things. You all know that. But with a woman, she does not bear her fangs right up the gate, right? And one of the things that I really loved that I've always formulated this idea but never had a way to articulate it up until recently was the idea of love is a perishable skill. Relationship is a perishable skill. A woman should be your extension, but you should maintain that all throughout the entirety of that relationship. That is why she's going to be a constant challenge. Is that you cannot formulate and mold this woman 1 week and then leave her alone for the entirety of your life and think that she will be in constant supportant of your endeavor as a man. Right? So these things need to be practiced diligently all throughout the entirety of the relationship. Which goes back to earlier podcasts that you and I had. This idea of getting women or getting access to women, that's one small part of that fraction of being together and pair bonding. The other side of that equation is that commitment and relationship, even marriage, is only the first step to a multitude of many more steps for the rest of your life. And those things come day in and day out. And in earlier podcasts, I mentioned that I love the phases that my wife goes through, because this is a whole entire new thing for me to learn and to fall in love with in the romantic side of it, but it's also the new challenge for me. She is now in her 30s, 40s, 50s. What kind of woman is she going to bring out? What sort of personality is going to come out in these things? And these are things that I as a man need to be well prepared for, in the sense of, through these changes, you cannot challenge me. And I need to recognize these in the early stages, so that when it gets to that point, we have mitigated that far earlier than when you got to it. Right? So this is why people have the rhetoric of, oh, but women change. Yes, they change because you allowed them to. You don't notice the small things, so the small things become bigger things, and bigger things becomes extreme things, and then the extreme ultimately break the camel's back. And the reason why it's a challenge for us as men is because this is a constant day in, day out, eagle eye view that you must have on your relationship. If things don't move in accordance to the way that you want it to move, you need to address it. We talked about dress, this thing about on social media. That's one aspect or one symptoms of these things, but it's very important. Most men cannot address their wives when it comes to the way that they dress. Oh, she's my wife, she can dress however the way she likes. Oh, but I will dress a certain way because I work at where, or this is how I am. Women should be an extension of who you are. And your wife, I should say, a wife should be an extension of the man that you are. What that means, and what's hard to swallow by both men and women, is that in order to be an extension, you must support my standards, my values, my principles. And in order to support that value and standards, we've got to look a certain way. We cannot just outwardly display everything and anything. That means we stand for nothing. We present ourselves a certain way because it supports the way that we look at our values and principles. So, yeah, you know, I can understand the pushback that people will say, oh, you know, a man's greatest challenge is his legacy. It is not. You can bear a child. That's your legacy. But that legacy can be destroyed by who? Fastest way to destroy your legacy is through what? A disobedient woman. Right? So you must conquer the woman first before you build your legacy, which is why it's your greatest challenge.
Yeah. I see, just let me just give a shout out to the live chat real quick. Shout out to you guys for watching. I appreciate you guys. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And if you have a POV you want to share for me and Paulo Festa, drop it through a super chat to donate to the channel. I'll be able to read it and respond to you guys. If you guys have questions or topics that you want me and Paulo Festa to respond to. And of course, this is a public show. If you want to jump on, click on that link. The link is in the description of the video. I will love to hear you guys and jump on and be part of our conversation. But I do see Sive and Boxella. I think this is the first time I see you on the live chat. But thank you, Sive, Lord Punisher, and the Dark Knight. Always appreciate you guys on the live chat. So keep the live chat popping. Let me know what you guys think. Yeah, I could just see a lot of guys hearing what you just said, especially in the red pill space, that will kind of push back against you. It would say, you know, if a guy that's creating a multi-billion-dollar business, that is more difficult, more challenging than, you know, pleasing your woman or being in a relationship with the woman. Because that's what I do see online. You know?
Yeah, I know this space particularly likes to disqualify the use of extremes when it's brought on by mostly women.
Yeah.
That's an extreme. Yeah. Most men is not going to create a multi-millionaire legacy that impacts the whole entirety of the planet as it moves forward. You know, most men's endeavor is to own a home and build a family. So when we look at, and I don't even want to use the word average, because I think that's very limiting in the ways that we use it now, and it's a buzzword that we throw. I understand its connotation, so I'm not going to argue that.
But he also diminishes the value of those types of men, how they contribute to society, right?
Exactly.
That's why I don't like that. I don't like that word average.
Yeah, we are men. You know, that's it. We're men. Some of us decide to rise to a much deeper calling that only them can pursue them, and most of us rise to a calling that's very similar. And that calling is to preserve your legacy and build a strong family.
Yeah.
Right? The war is no longer coming with guns, although it may seem like that. The wars is in the classroom with your children. The wars is the children your children are hanging around. The war is in the little tablets that you put in, the little screen you put in front of your face. That's where the real war is. And it's disrupting the way that we look at a lot of our interaction, right? Someone's mentioned in the comment the lack of social skills. The lack of social skill comes from the idea of men being apart. If you ever find a group of men, your vast majority of those men, even though they might lack a few things, but they're one of the most outward group of people you ever see in any sort of meeting at all. They're either loud, playful, or they're speaking. So social skills is often developed in groups of men, and then it's further refined when we interact with other women. So you must find other men to develop the way that you are. And the reason for that is men will challenge you in ways that women will never do. You refine the way that a man challenges you when you interact with women, right? Which is why when there's things going on with women, we don't go to other women, we go to a man. It's like, oh, dude, look, I've been trying this thing and it's not working with me. Oh, yeah. You know why it happens that way, right? So... we lack because we're divided, and we're divided because we can't understand. We've gone away from the agreements that most men used to have on what standards we should adhere to as men in general. So it's look, I understand the counterpoint. I understand it deeply. So yeah.
Hey, well, what's going on, Ruthless Truth? Thank you for jumping on.
How you doing, Ruthless?
I know me and Philip, we done had some been on panel too, but you, Kava, is it Kava Club?
Yeah, Kava Club.
Nice to meet you. Just thought I'd come in and chime in on the topic. Seemed like a very good topic. I like.
I appreciate it, man. Thank you for jumping on. But yeah, me and the Battle Festa, we're just discussing. You know, we have a very different perspective when it comes to marriage and long-term relationships and why it's necessary for men to pursue marriage. That's not common based on what we see online and in society. But what do you want to add on to our discussion about based on what you've heard me and Balafets have talked so far of why men do need marriage?
I don't think men need marriage. Marriage is a luxury.
Okay.
It's a luxury, right? It's something most men reward themselves with when they're ready to build their legacies or if they find the woman that they kind of want to build with, right? So it's either surprising to be during the journey. It's the okay, this is how I want to do my journey, or the reward for my success. But it's not absolute. Marriage is not absolute, especially in the Western way of doing it, because it's just problematic with the way that the women are getting so much incentive and so much leverage once you put that ring on the finger. And they know it, right? And they know it, and they know these, and they use this to their advantage. So I think marriage is actually bad for men in a lot of ways, because it takes away your leverage, right? It does. Even though I know we want to say I'm the man no matter what. Yeah, it don't stop you from being a man, but once that woman gets that ring and y'all sign the papers, she understands, right? She understands what if you do not act the way accordingly, right? She can act the way she want to act. What you gonna do, right? If y'all have kids, she's gonna get the kids. She's never gonna have to pay you, ever, right? So she has a lot of more wiggle room. Where you, on the other hand, right? You're under the gun now, right? Because like let's say you built this great monetary machine, you know what I'm saying? And now she stands to, if she feels like she doesn't really want to deal with you no more, and she feels like, I'm gonna do my thing. I feel we're growing apart, or as women now they say, graduate from marriage. Right, she has where to gain. She has everything to gain and nothing to lose. Plus the support of the courts, plus the support of her family, friends. Right, she has everything behind her. Am I telling men not to get married? No, I'm not saying that. But if you do, just weigh it out more. Like look at the pros and the cons and protect yourself. I mean, the numbers and the data is showing that is just not benefiting men in the long term. We're not benefiting from these marriages in a way where we can look back and say, well, this is really worth it, right? Am I getting a return on my investment when I have to acquiesce to her happiness? I have to acquiesce to the children's happiness. And then, I have to do, and I'm already financing pretty much everything in most cases, or even if it's 50-50, right? It's still a bad deal. It's still a bad deal because then now your word doesn't go as far, right? She's really gonna not respect you as much when it's because as soon as you make a authoritative call, she's gonna say, well, I'm paying the bills here too. What's up? What you talking about? Yeah. And a lot of and this is a very, very important part. A lot of parents divide the way kids should be raised. A lot of women don't like the men to be over masculated, the children. They don't really like you to really go hard, right, to discipline. They're like, oh, no, this not, maybe we shouldn't be so hard. Women are more nurturers, so they don't, a lot of women these days don't, a lot of houses are divided on the issue. So I'm going to let it play. All I'm saying is this, right? Marriage is not absolute. It's not something that's needed to move this generation forward. And unless you find somebody completely compatible, right? And it's a gamble, right? It's a gamble, but if you really feel like this is what you can gamble with, go for it. Or by all means. I'm not saying, hey, don't do it. But for a lot of guys, when they get married, they see the red flags, they see it, but they just hoping it could get better. So, in my opinion, if it ain't at least 87% fit, don't do it.
Okay.
Yeah, I've got a slight pushback to the idea that marriage is not absolute. If the idea of marriage is not absolute, then we should have a society of equally yoked people. If you get what I mean. If we look at society for the last 10 years, we've started seeing the destruction of marriage. And also at the same time, we start seeing the destruction of values and systems that were put in place by the commoners, I'd say commoners, but the common people, that used to at least put some societies or some communities at agreement of what we should be and how we should act. If marriage is not important, then that destruction should have no bearing at all in the way that we look at society now and our struggles with women. So that's where it's hard for me to... It's really hard for me to be convinced when I hear the counter argument to why marriage is important. In the sense that then we shouldn't be seeing the destruction of societies and communities. If that was the case, we should see equally yoked people. We should see equally that people are either for or against marriage. We shouldn't see it. We shouldn't see the destruction of man to the degree that we do now. If that was the case.
Well, this is what you're missing though. We have the data, and we have the numbers. And we have a lot of information now in this day of social media. So there's no longer a mystery that this shit ain't working, right? It's too high. The divorce rate is very high. And even the ones who are not divorcing, we're finding out that there's problems, right? There's problems in these relationships. So should we have be equally yoked? Well, this is the problem. We have an unequally yoked system, right? Even America's divided down the middle, right? The Republicans, the Democrats. Everything the way America's run is divided, right? And if America was pro-marriage, right, they'd be anti-divorce. But but all the women got to do is sing in a little pitch, and the judge is ready to take everything or do whatever it is, right? Because they're very pro-divorce, right? America's pro-individualism. So this is why marriage is kind of, pardon my French, stupid in this particular construct, social construct, because here you are trying to build a foundation to unite. When the very country that you live in, and the very world that you live in, incentivizes individualism. I don't need a man.
Yeah.
Right. So that's where. So you're battling the outside distractions while you're trying to keep your house together, right? Which most men are. That's why most men aren't leaving their wives. But the outside forces are trying to pull it apart. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah, so I understand exactly what you're saying. I think Will and I have discussed the marriage statistics for the last 2 years. We've looked at the data, we've observed the data. What I'm speaking to specifically is this idea that marriage is that marriage is a 50-50. It's neither important nor it is important. What I'm trying to get back at is that if we start looking at the destruction of the West for what it currently is now, we can trace it all the way back to when the household started breaking down, which is the idea of marriage. So the problem for me is not necessarily marriage. I understand the law, especially over in the US for you guys. It's pro-divorce, it's pro-separation. But marriage is not the problem. The idea that we have about marriage is the problem. So for Will and I, the conversation for us is how do we make it work in a society that is built essentially now, it's already set in stone to be separated. So where do we start? And one of the things that I'm deeply I think grateful for is that Will, through the podcast and the amount of time that we have spent discussing these things, have seen a different result in terms of the things that we discuss. So absolutely. Look, the marriage law in the US, I've looked into it as a foreigner, and it's very much tailored towards the women. And I guess for us is how do we determine right from the get that we can optimize our probability for success with women. So
here's the thing, Paloof. Men are great with or without women. This is the thing you understand, right? Kings have been kings. Right? Great warriors have been great warriors. Okay? Man was not built upon the foundation of a woman. It's a luxury. It's a luxury to have a woman. It's not a necessity for a man. We don't need them to protect us. We don't need them to provide for us. Right? We are the apex predators.
Hold that right there. Hold that right there.
What we're dealing with, what you're saying is 50-50 and all this other stuff of why society. See, the problem in human nature is you have egos. And how does the only way this is going to work?
You're getting further.
If the women start resting there, taking a step back, right? Take a step back and let the man be men.
Wait, hold on. You're contradicting yourself. You're contradicting yourself in the sense of, if we're apex, if we're the top, if we as men are the apex, how the hell do we then ask the second? I would say, if we're the apex, then there's a second class. I'm assuming that we're referring to women as the second class. How then does an apex request the second class to fall in line? Shouldn't the apex be the apex and say you fall in line or you don't?
Well, once again, that's how under the social construct that we are, right? It takes away from our true alpha or apex nature, right? Because now we can't run our households on our own anymore. The government is running your household too. Okay? So to tell your woman to shut up and sit down and listen, she on the back of her back front mind knows what's behind her that who could take you out. Right? She knows this. She knows she has
to that, yeah.
Right. So this is why a lot of women are over talking and being problematic, because they have that 8-ball in the corner pocket. So therefore, this is where marriage is, once again, a very bad deal in the Western world, because the Western world elevates the woman as an equal, or if not even better than her partner or her husband. And this is a problem. And how do we start? Where are we going to start? The women, they have to understand that money's not everything. That's the number one. They got to step back and understand that money is a tool. Not saying that we don't need it, right? But don't let it be the basis of your foundation of type of woman you are. That's one. Two, women are going to have to start understanding that they're not our competition. They're not our equals. Neither do we want to treat them as our equals. They want our do they really want us to treat them as our equals? Because by nature, we're very, very, very violent, right? We take over shit. We do shit, right? We are apex predators. So when we're laying out the carpet for our wife so she can have this life, raise the kids, right? We're doing this in humility, right? To say, okay, I'm paving this way out for we can both rest and be productive people. But I don't need you fighting against me. I don't need you to go against me. I don't need you to always have something to say when I say something. I just need you to get behind me and lead and follow. And this is the problem with women. They're poor followers. They don't follow good. So this is why it's a problem. This is why it's problematic. This is why marriage is not a good thing for a man in this world. Because once again, the women know that if you go to them in an authoritative manner and show a little bit of masculinity, a little bit more, right? They're going to understand, okay, now I'm going to pull out what he doesn't know I got. And that is 911, right? They're going to talk back to you and see how far you go. And you're going to have to shut down. Either two things you're going to have. You're going to shut down on them and be like, you know what? Happy wife, happy life. Or you're going to be
struggling here. Yeah, what I'm struggling here is this all women or is this a particular subset of women?
This is, well, yeah, there are some outliers now. I'm not saying every woman, right? I'm speaking to the numbers. I'm speaking to the movement that's going on here, which I'm sure you're aware of, like the Queen Maker, and then she got a lot of followers, right? There is movements going on here anti-man, okay? So I'm speaking to these set of women, which are quite a bit, over millions of them, right? This is who I'm speaking to. And then the ones who are, I would say, not as extreme, but they still have a light of feminism in them. They still want that equality. Yes. Are they approachable? Yes. Can you have a conversation with them? Yes. Can you even date them, court them? Yes. But then as time goes on, right, they step out of those parameters, and then you see like, whoa, I thought you was cool. I thought you was, you know what I'm saying? But always the feminism was there. They always want that power in the dynamics of this relationship. So these are things that cannot be conducive to a great marriage, because by and large, historically, right, men have always been the providers and protectors. And
Yeah,
the best way a man can function is cooperation in his house. That's number one.
absolutely. So I don't disagree with a lot of the things that you're saying, but the way that you're describing men to me sounds as if all men are docile when they're presented with challenges, right? So I get that the law is against men when it comes to marriage. So the problem not entirely is marriage. The problem is marrying women that will destroy you. The greatest fear women have is a man that they cannot destroy. The arrogance that I have in marriage is that I dare my wife to try and destroy me. You can bring the entirety of the law with you, but you cannot destroy me. So when you speak about apex, I very much align with that idea that as men we're the apex predator. But I cannot, for the life of me, understand from the other side of, we as men understand when we have nothing. We understand the loss and the absolute loss of everything and have nothing. Vast majority of us, especially older gentlemen, have understand the meaning of nothing and lonelism. So why is it that a woman scare us so much so that we would rather hold on to a string of docileness than to go back? I do not fear the nothingness, because I come from that. I know that in order for me to be where I am, I had to build on nothing. and I'm not afraid to go back there. So that's where all of the things that you mentioned, we agree. We understand all of that. What I'm trying to say here is that, yeah, I understand that women are using the power of the law, but what do we say to men in the first instance? Because I don't see men who stand on their chest and pound it and say, I don't give a fuck. You challenge me. I've got other men who stands beside me, and I mentioned before camaraderie. The reason why it's very powerless for a man, especially in the West, is because he doesn't have anyone to stand beside him. If you and I and Will stood together and said, fuck that, if the government comes for us, we will stand here and fight, and I don't give a fuck. You try and destroy my household, you better go for me first. That's where we need to stand together, and we need to agree on what sort of standards we as men are willing to lay our lives under and say, I'm not going to break the standard no matter what. And I know men will stand beside me to defend that same standard. That's where we need to be. Right?
I totally 100% agree with that, right? And now let's get back to the men, right? And this is what the very problem I have with the YouTube platform, right? Because a lot of men come up here and flash other men at a high rate, right? We don't have no sort of, we don't have a system in place where we can have each other's back and support each other in these type of situations, right? It's always, oh, well, you picked wrong. Oh, it's always, well, you should have got more money. Or it's right. It's always, it's so much division amongst us men. Women, they divide you, but one thing about them, they're coming together for the greater good to beat the man. A woman could be, they're yelling at you, cussing you out on the platform, and you tell the other woman, hey, hold her accountable. They're like, I don't know what you're talking about, right? But if a man does that to a woman, the other men are trouncing. So we're so far away from each other in the social construct, right? That we don't know how to have each other's back. We don't know how to support each other and give each other emotional, our psychological support, and even sometimes financial, right? Step in a pot or something. We don't have that amongst us men. So therefore, I hear what you're saying. I don't fear, and I don't believe a lot of men fear. But in the art of war, strategy, right? If you're going into a battle, potential, you always got to look at the pros and the cons, right? When you get married, when you're in a relationship, right? You look at the pros and the cons. You just ain't marrying blindly. I'm doing. You look at like, well, she could switch up on me one day, right? So how do I have to protect myself. I ain't scared of her, but I'm aware of, okay, how can I play this game to win? I don't play to lose, right? I play to win. So yeah, I love this woman. Is this the woman I want to be with? Yes, but we got to be smarter at how we approach these type of situations when we talk about marriage and combining resources and allocating the resources to this individual. You're talking, something that is, and not just financial, but the emotional investment. Mm-hmm. That is even harder. That is more difficult, right?
So Ruthless, welcome to the Masculine Mind, where where iron sharpens iron, where we have these conversations and we dissect.
Let me just read the super chat real quick, and I'll just give it right back to you. Shout out to you, man. Big super chat from Black Harambe's Revenge, Jack's Misinformed World, $50 super chat. Man, thank you so much. I really appreciate that support donation. So yes, men need marriage. Not only is marriage a visible vulnerability of a man, it's also a litmus test for a man's capability to domesticate himself and socialize appropriately. Shout out to the guy on the panel with the facial hair. Good show. So there's two guys on with facial hair, so I'm assuming that's me, but I know it's Paulo Festa. So thank you so much, Black Harambe's Revenge. Appreciate you. Thank you for your donation. Thank you so much for the support for the channel. As always, if you're watching this live show, if you want to share your POV, your opinion, your voice, drop it through a super chat. I'll be able to read it, put it on screen, add it to our discussion, and for everybody to see. And of course, this is a live show, so it's a public show. So if you want to jump on like Ruthless, join our discussion, whether you agree or disagree, just have an open conversation. The link is in the description below. And a shout out to everybody in the live chat. Keep the live chat popping. And I'll pass it back to you, Paulo Festa. Go ahead.
Yeah, again, welcome to the Masculine Mind Show. So none of that idea of men pitting against men is a part of this, I guess, platform. But there is a part of clash of ideas, and the clash of ideas for us is very much important in the sense of that's where friction is, and friction is needed in order for the idea of iron sharpens iron to be even manifested, right? So I have no, and I make this statement very clear on any other panel I'm in. I have no idea when another man says to me, well, you chose wrong. Well, you didn't make enough money, because a part of me acknowledges that might be part of the problem in the first place, right? And when I see a lot of the conversation with men is that oftentimes when these things are thrown out, we puff our chest, but we puff our chest at the wrong thing. And the reason why we puff our chest at the wrong thing is that we've already determined our value, and for anyone to attack that value system, we see it as I need to fight, versus, oh, I understand that at some stage that's where my value is, but as I grow as a man and as I develop, my value no longer remains there. So in this podcast, we discuss, especially around my marriage with my wife, because we've come on this podcast and we spoke on certain aspects of what it means to be a man and how that interacts. Again, I love the idea of men being apex, and it speaks nothing to do with women at all. It speaks to the tenacity that we have as men, the ability that we have as men, and the capability that we have. And that's why I will forever be a big proponent of us as men, is that very idea. No woman can outman me, therefore you cannot scare me in the ways that you would destroy me. I dare you to try. So from that idea is why this podcast has manifested, in the sense of we need to find like-minded men, at least in the ways that we look at the world. We may have different ideas of what the world should be, but we should find those men so that we can clash in the ways that we are as wordsmiths, in the ways that we hold our ideas, so that we refine whatever it is that we look in the world. But we also need to find other like-minded men, in the sense of, what are we going to do? How do we stand together? Who do we revere, right? And what are the standards that we adhere to? We have a saying here that the 3 tenets of masculinity are the art of man, which is ARD, accountability, resilience, and disciplines. So these are the conversations that we need to formulate, and we don't typically delve into the woman's side and the masculine mind. Will has another show where that goes into. So yeah, look, I understand your frustration, because I've been in panels with you, or watched panels where you've been in, and I guess this whole idea of the masculine mind is to bring back the conversations to men. How the hell are we going to go? How do we show unity in the way that we clash with ideas, and how do we formulate that in a space that it's just men? Right. So yeah, welcome to the masculine mind.
Yeah, I agree with that. So it's prevalent, and, but once again, right? And you see that message, which is the $50 message. Yes, men need marriage, right? That is, of course, a woman would think like that, right? Because marriage is her greatest, right? It gives her the leverage.
Yeah, I don't think marriage in that manner. Yeah,
I mean, understand the social construct of the marriage.
Yeah. So
it's just, women are clearly, and we're not, there's some outliers. Maybe Polifoss, you met the right one, right? That is for the betterment of the greater good. And there are women out there that are in it for the greater good. I'm not saying that all women, right, are under this notion of, well, I need to take it and run, right? I'm not saying that, because I do know some successful, I would say, stable marriages. I really don't know.
Yeah.
Never know on behind closed doors. But for the most part, what I see through even in my anecdotal experience, and from just speaking to men in general, marriage is a total failure. Very, very rare, is a minority of people that I met that's, oh yeah, my wife, she's great. You can, and sometimes you can read their body languages. You know how people, when they're together in public, you can see, I see one husband and wife walking far apart from each other. no eye contact, right? Just like I'm just here. So marriage, once again, I advise anyone. You know, if you can find. Go ahead.
No, so the context in under that super chat, I disagree with. Men don't need marriage for the woman. They need marriage in order to accomplish one of, if not the biggest purpose a man has ever driven to do, which is to create legacies. You need the marriage in order to create that legacy. People stop with the idea of legacy at just childbirth. The fact that they have a child means that they have a legacy. I take that a bit further in terms of this conversation, in the sense of my legacy is not just my bloodline. My legacy is my bloodline plus the principles and values I as a man hold. And in order for me to pass that on, I must be in this child's, I must be involved in this child or children through the entirety of their development. And I cannot do that as efficient as a man without the woman that bears those children. So there has to be a work in that. So that's where marriage for me is very much important for the man, not entirely for the woman. She reaps the benefit of the marriage. And I don't think most women are capable of thinking of the greater good unless they're a nun or they're a philanthropist. But even then, they serve their own purpose. That is, the man's incentive is for the greater good. And we must bring women along that journey and have the ability for them to comply to that notion of our purpose is for the greater good. Women will always align with what is the greater good for them.
But here's the problem with your point, right? They're not on a majority scale. Right? Women are not aligning. They're getting up in there and they're switching up. Look at, and I'm gonna use an example: Tom Brady and Giselle. It's just a perfect example, right? This guy is everything a man could dream of, right? Success, leadership. He wasn't cheating out here, messing with a bunch of women, right? He had a job that required him to be a physical, available, say 4 or 5 months out the year. But he was that dude. She even quit her career, which was very profitable, right? She quit her career because she saw that this guy was on track so she can have the kids. But because her ego took a side of putting herself first, she made a demand. She put in a demand, and then he heard the demand, and then said, "You know what? I'm not going to honor that. I'm just going to do this for a little bit longer because this is what I want to do." And she burnt the house down. And this is what's happening. And it's thousand cases. That's just one. Whether they have money or don't have money. So with the point what you're saying, see, here's a house. This is why I don't think you need a marriage, or a marriage is not the essence, because most marriages are divided. Most people are divided in those marriages. Even the kids.
I disagree.
Even a lot of kids. Oh, dude, you don't watch the little stories about how the kids they can't stand their parents. A lot of rich kids.
I see that. So let me acknowledge. I'm letting
it play. Most marriages, most households are divided. Okay, what you see on the outward is a lot of it's just a show. A lot of it's just a show. But if you go deep in there, most these households are divided. The kids are divided because why? The mom and the dad can't get along, so they have to pick a side. A lot of parents try to oppose their will on the kids, on their lifestyle. The kids don't really want to do that. They just do it to make them happy, just to shut them up. A lot of kids don't even take care of their, if you go to the old folks home, right? A lot of kids don't even take care of their parents. They don't come visit them. This country and all the world, most families don't even like each other, even at the family reunions. It's like everybody hates each other. Like, I don't even like going to my family reunion. Every time I go, I don't like looking at such a hoe. I'm like, oh shit, I didn't come here for that. And listen, I got a pretty big family. So that's pretty. So all I'm saying is this. I'm gonna land the plane. All I'm saying is marriage. Once again, I'm not promoting don't get married. I'm not saying that. Let me lay that disclaimer out there. I'm not saying, hey, don't get married. But I'm letting you know is it's not a guarantee of the legacy you think. A lot of kids ain't gonna keep the legacy. I'm gonna do their own thing, and that's
nothing is guaranteed, which is why a man's life is exciting as it is, because nothing is guaranteed. Your legacy is not guaranteed, right? Right. So that's why the legacy and the purpose of a man should excite him, is because the guarantee is not there at all. The certainty is not there. The uncertainty is what keeps us excited and keeps us in the pursuit of it all. Is that we dare, you know, we dare to strike at the gods, right? We dare as men. It's within our instinct to strike at the God's feet, right? So if we see all of the movies that we love, you know, Spartans and whatnot, that derives at least some sense of manliness, if you want to call it that. It is the ability for a man to dare the gods and strike at their feet, right? So that's the operation of a man when we look at challenges. The other notion is that we have been overflooded with information that is increasingly negative for the way that we view a lot of these things that are supposed to be a part of the solution to us operating as a society in a healthy manner. The reason why I say that is if we look at the Asian population, one of the biggest population in the world, and if we look at their marriage rate, they're one of the highest, if not the highest married rate in the US, and not only that, they are the highest in terms of economical standing. So it's not entirely that marriage. If we look at Asians, yeah, right? They have the highest rate of marriages, the lowest rate of divorces, and not only that, in terms of if we look at per capita in terms of their economic movement, they are the highest. So there has to be something that's working there. And although we can say for the rest of the population, marriage is not working or working, but we have to take it from, for me at least, if I'm a proponent of marriage, I have to look at the data and say what supports it. And currently it's being supported by the highest population of the world in terms of their endeavor. They're the same here, by the way, in New Zealand, and they're the most successful at it. So I have to at least gander what is making those relationships successful. And if we look at their reach, right, their reach all over the world is influential. So at a smaller scale and in pocket communities, yeah, I understand marriage can destroy a lot of those communities. But again, it begs me the question, why does it still work in a vast majority of the population? What are they doing differently? And if most men are coming to us to ask, look, I want to be with a woman, I want to build a family, I want to live a life that is fulfilled, then I have to look at what is working and provide a perspective from there.
So, for Asians, I'm going to start out maybe in the field. I was a general manager, right? And we deal with a lot of clients, high-end clients, very versatile, Asians, whites, like you name it, right? A lot of Asians, but you wouldn't believe most Asians men are not running their house. That's number one. The women are running a house like a slave master, right? They're in the happy wife, happy life category. They're letting their women crush them. They even tell me, they talk to me, I can't stand my, she at the other house, just go over there and just keep her there for a little longer, please. Stop to have peace. But you can hear Asian men crying on the internet in certain instances, man, she's taking everything. I can't know. Most Asians are silent. They don't really like to speak out very much. And most of them they live for a lot of glory of their parents, a lot of glory of their people. So divorce is very shameful in their culture. So a lot of them are hanging in there even though they can't stand it. They're miserable. Same with the white population, right? The same thing, that's where the happy wife, happy life come from. Right? The average white man will tell you, man, I remember I had a client, he had like $150,000 statue. He said, I want you to be in charge of this. I don't want nothing to happen to that. It's okay, no problem, right? Because we knew what we was doing. Then I told him, I said, well, he said, wait. I said, what's up? He said, you need to talk to my wife first because I don't want to get in trouble. And these are I'm talking about this is 80-90% of all of my clients, they always refer to the wife to get her approval, to make sure she's happy so they don't get checked. So in none of them cases, they're submitting to the woman. They are breaking themselves to the woman because a lot of them ain't mags. They can't go out. They don't have a lot of options, right? They don't have the character to date. So when they get married, when they ask that woman to marry them, they're conceding to let that woman crush them. Now, black men, we are a little different. We're built in a different way, right? And that's why our divorce rate is so high, right? Because we don't do that. We're gonna constantly push the line. No. And then the women, they leave. But for the most part, Asians and whites, I don't really know too much about the Indians, like Indonesia. I really don't know much about their culture, so I'm not gonna speak to that. But to the Asians, lots of them, they accept their women's masculinity and they let them run the house. This is why, and they don't divorce. They don't say, they're just quiet. They sit there and suffering, and they have no option.
Interesting that that's your takeaway. So I work in construction, and it's different. Maybe it's different in terms of landscape. So you're in the US, so I can probably concede to your anecdotal experience. For us in New Zealand, it's very different, man. The Asians here are quiet, but they're quiet because the English is not their first language. So a big part of my strategy in terms of construction management is that I keep a translator around and I speak to these guys. And when I tell you that these guys are one of the epitome of what masculinity looks like, it's very much so. They run their household here. And not only that, the idea of pleasing and living to the expectation of their parents is very much strong in their community.
Yes, I agree with that.
That to me is what speaks to a man's legacy. Is that I appease my father's expectation and value, and therefore I pass the same thing to my son, right? So, yeah, it's interesting to get different perspective in terms of how these are manifesting in all sorts of places. But for me, the idea that marriage is not the end all be all, it's contradicting what the man desires. And if we go around these panel and have any, let's use YouTube as a sample size. When we look at YouTube and a lot of what most men talk about, it is their need to be with a woman that is subservient to the idea of what a man should be, what his purpose is, and his authority as a leader. If we go out into a lot of the places that is not, where YouTube is not influential, it's the same story. The need for a man to be with a woman in order to create a family and to create legacies. It's not communicated in that manner, but we're driven to be with each other. The study shows that when we pair bond successfully and we're in I don't want to use the word, when we are in a healthy relationship, both men and women, the positive far exceeds the negative, right? And marriage is not without its problem. It's problematic in many certain ways. These are two individuals who have been raised in different standards of what households they are in. So that's always going to be an issue. So for me, in this idea of what men should do, it's, look, if you want marriage and we're driven to be together and pair bond, how do we optimize that? And again, this is where I differ in a lot of things. You have to qualify the woman, not the woman qualify you.
That's true.
Again, going to the idea of apex legend, that's always been the case. It's only after the sexual revolution where men now have to qualify for women.
I 100% agree with you. 100%. So you don't have no pushback on me on that.
Yeah. So that's where my stance is that men need to qualify women more.
And that's where it starts. That's where it should start. To your point, right? To your point, that's where it has to start. We have to act like, women act like they don't need men, but men act like they need women, and women play this to their leverage, to the ball in their court, right? Chivalry. Oh, we pay for the whole day. Oh, you're so beautiful. Valentine's Day. Everything is in the Western region is. Well, let's go to China, right? China, if you too old, they divorce their right. You out of there. You get past 26, they get rid of her, and they get another one take your place. Bam. And they doing this even when they like 56, they get rid of the younger, the better. Over there, they don't care. Women, after they turn 25, they're getting divorced, and then he's going to get them a younger one, and then that's how it is in China, right? They don't play over there. The men will send their women packing if she doesn't look useful. Okay, so don't act like the Asians. Only in America, in the Western region world, are we acquiescing to the woman's happiness and letting them set the standard.
Yeah, so that's where this Masculine Mind podcast comes into play. Is that what we're trying to speak on? Is that the qualifier should be you as a man, and your qualifier should be based on your value system, right? But you cannot get to be able to qualify a woman if you don't understand what those are to you, what they mean to you, right? What kind of man are you? When you're stripped of all your accolades, who are you? And what do you stand on? So these conversations in terms of marriage, so this is where you won't find a lot of these conversations and ideas being discussed in other panels, which is why we needed to have this anyway with Will, is that the idea of marriage has nothing to do with the woman. The reason for qualifying women is because of the idea of they should be extensions of who you are as a man. And in order to be an extension of you, you must qualify them first. People, and I know your community, the black community, loves the idea of the game, right? A man who has game has it easy with women. Where we differ in that idea is that Will and I believe in this idea that a masculine man has no trouble determining what qualifies a woman and what doesn't. And that's where our thing is. Yeah, maybe it's true in certain communities, but a man will always be a man. And the type of man that we can at least observe who've been successful with women is the one that understand who he is, what his capabilities are, and makes no reservation for no woman to change whatever that is. Which is why accountability is a big part of our conversation, is that you must be accountable to you first. So what do you believe in and what do you stand on?
So here it is, right? Okay, so for example, right, in America, here's the problem in America, right? You have too many guys that don't get a lot of things from women, right? They don't get the attention, the time, or the things that will qualify them as, let's say, that dude, right? Because women are very materially possessive. Let's face it, out here, they're driven. That's why the rappers, the athletes, the politicians, the high end, this is where these women come after these men in drones.
The new Warzone came out today, and I just got the craziest challenge ever. I have to.
What is that?
No, there's a pop-up.
So these women are out here chasing these guys, right? Now, I agree with 100% again, 100%. This is where we align perfectly. Man is supposed to qualify what the standard is for a woman to enter into his world.
Yep.
Right? But the problem here is, and that's how I move. That's just how I move, period. That's how I've been moving. I learn quickly, fast, okay? We don't let her qualify me. Because if she's trying to qualify me, I'm out of there because I already know that she's only trying to use leverage. And I'm not giving up my leverage. But most men out here and don't have the confidence I have, right? They don't have that confidence. The women are crushing them so much psychologically. And let me tell you,
a big part of it too.
These women out here, they're good at it. I swear to you, they purposely don't give a lot of eye contact to men. They purposely ignore men. They could think you're the most handsomest dude in the world and not even fucking that you catch them looking or catch them giving you too much. Because everything for the women out here is, well, if you won't, another man will. If you don't, he will. And that's what they're using as their leverage. That's what they're using as their game plan. That's their whole card. All right, yeah, you handsome, you all that, and I see you checking me out, but you got to come and pretty much beg me, and I might give you my number. I might not. I might text you once a month, every other month? It depends, right? Because I got this simp dude over here who's buying me, cash apping me $500-600 just to have a conversation with no sex. I got this other simp dude who's telling me I'm a goddess. So yeah, you might look. You might
And
be
guess what? Guess what? As men of standards, you should turn away and never entertain that woman ever again.
No, I
Right.
agree.
So this is where I think this is where it gets muddled in the water. The greatest loss that women feel deeply and regret for the entirety of their life is a man who's unwilling to compete with other men for her attention. If she is asking you better do X, Y, and Z, otherwise I'm going to get this man. As a man of standard, you say, thank you for your time, but you're not the woman for me. You can find whatever you need. It sounds like you have all you need from this man. And that is one of the biggest, if not the biggest regret that most women have now. Is a man who's unwilling to lay his standards down just to compete.
Yes.
And that's where we need to stand as men, right? So this conversation is great because we need to acknowledge the field that most men are playing in, but they're playing a game that the rules are set against them. And the rule is you better acquiesce to the female that you're pursuing. Otherwise, you're not going to get any success.
Right.
That is a lie.
That's a lie.
And men have been convinced that should be the way that they should approach women. Is no. Build yourself as a young man and build your standards. And then you go and explore the options that are available for you. Any woman who requests your competition should not deserve you at all. You walk away and you thank them for their time and you walk away, right? And I think this is where it becomes even more difficult is that, again, the divide in men is so much great that it's hard to find two men who agree on that. And I guess that's where the acknowledgement is. As men, when we have these podcasts, we need to acknowledge the game that most men are playing is set up for. It's rigged. And it's rigged for them by people who spiel the idea of feminism. It's people who spiel the idea of vulnerability for men. It's people who spiel the idea of 50-50. No, you are the man. Part of being a leader is that the idea of you sheltering all in your care and take responsibility for those in your care is also means that you get authority, but you don't just get it right off the bat. These are skills, and these are perishable skills, right? So again, I guess the idea of marriage, we'll always see it from a different perspective. For me, it's if your life is leading you in a way where you want to build a legacy, you see yourself in a family and having these things as a man, then I don't know whether you were here and when we mentioned it, you must conquer the woman first. Otherwise, it's going to be problematic. And it sounds like from where you're coming from, the marriages are problematic when the woman and the man is not in the same, when they don't see the vision in the same way. Man has a vision, the woman has a vision. They can't be the case.
Yeah.
The woman should support the vision of a man, right? So,
but once again, in the Western world, where the independent woman is rising, right? She's rising. She's not falling, and these women are not trying to give it up anytime soon. So, unless we all line up, us men line up in alignment with hey, and we act like we don't need them, and flip the game, then we're playing behind the 8 ball. Because, like I said,
I don't believe all men should.
Huh?
I don't believe all men should. I
All men
believe
should what?
should align together in order for it to be effective.
Yes,
In order for it to be effective, I don't think all men should align at first. I think the men who are capable of making these conversations and holding these spaces should be the first one to set the standards, and we should support each other.
Yeah.
Why? Because we have a level of influence, whether we have one viewer, two viewer, or no viewers. When we have these conversations and we are able to articulate the ideas that we have, that's where the influence starts, right? So I don't think all men need to align at first. I think people like you who have a very strong opinion on these things and are very articulate about it, and when we share these things, that the interesting thing about the human is that the ability to be inspired, right? So yeah, I don't believe all men should stand together at first. I think for us, let's have these conversations and let's show the range of what a man's capability is, and those are determined by most men in the way that we articulate. Not only that, through the actions through the results that we have, not the action, through the results, right? So, yeah, I guess perspective for me, if I'm going to preach about marriage, my marriage should be ironclad, and I endeavor to have that as my reality for the entirety of my life here on earth. So if I'm going to stand on marriage, and if I'm going to stand on marriage, my marriage better work for the entirety of my life, and I'll keep coming back to this platform and share my experience and share my perspective because I support it wholeheartedly. If, God forbid, my wife was to divorce me tomorrow, I would come here and be the first one to say, I fucked it all up, and I might have to go back to the drawing board and rework a lot of these things out, but I would admit it. So, yeah, I think having these conversations is absolutely vital at first. It may spark at least a start to someone else's fire, or it may linger as just echoes in someone else's. So, yeah.
Well, just so you know, right? Once again, right? The women act like they don't need men.
I know. I've dated women like that.
I don't want to get married. I don't want to have kids. And if you ain't there, I get a dog and walk them 7 days a week, and we can have a conversation. That's what these women are pushing. They're pushing the line very hard about this.
So Will knows this because Will knows me. So I've dated those women. I've been around those women, and guess what? Almost 10 years of marriage, and those women still check my inbox. They still send me DMs. Oh, hey, how you doing? You know, if you ever break up with your wife, you know, come find me and blah blah. Like,
yeah, because they're trying to break you in the beginning. They were trying to break you in the beginning, but you didn't fall for it.
Yeah, and I said, look, 10 years too late, and this is the last conversation we'll ever have. And the amount of time that they find different ways to get at me or reach me, and it's delusion.
They're delusional.
Yeah, and that's the thing I'll always say to men is like, leave those women alone if they don't want to align. Because guess what? Their biggest regret that women will have, and this should serve your arrogance as a man, at least, they will come and try and find you over and over again. The deepest regret a woman will ever have is losing a man who never wanted to compete with another man for her attention. And that's where the idea of apex, that's where the idea of where's the dog in you, that's where the idea of I'm a man, therefore I am. Right?
And let's take it to the next level, right? Let's take it to the next level. When you do, let's just say you do find a woman who aligns, right? And you do marry her. Always don't fully become vulnerable to her. You always got to keep a certain edge to your masculinity. You always got to keep. You can't
refining your masculinity.
Yeah, you can't let your guards all the way down. You can't just. You still got to hold her in a. Okay, you're my wife. I love you, but I can't tell you everything. There's certain things that you just gotta not give, because women typically use the information you give them. So
yeah,
men are more wise.
Vulnerability is a trigger word here, by the way. Vulnerability is a trigger word here, and I don't believe that a man should be weak at all, no matter what. And if you are to be weak, you should find other men who are proficient in the area that you're weak in, and allow them to train you, right? And I don't even know these conversations that men have that they are vulnerable, and this idea of, I've heard vulnerability so many times by so many different people, even people who I used to look up to in terms of their values and principles, and they say things like, oh, you know, this is where a man is truly vulnerable. Get the fuck out of here. You're a man. You're not meant to be vulnerable. Those days are over, right? So the idea of those idea of vulnerability should be the idea. I love this idea that I've seen in a lot of my looking back. I wouldn't necessarily call it research or studies, but I love the idea of rite of passage, right? And my idea of vulnerability is that the rite of passage should explore your vulnerability and defeat it entirely. That is the only time a man should be vulnerable, and you should defeat it entirely, so that when you walk into the step of a man, you no longer have anything to be vulnerable about. And I slightly differ in your sentiment about putting your guard up. My arrogance, and again, this is where in previous podcasts I claim some tendency of psychopathy. My arrogance is that I don't care who you are as a woman, whether my guard is up or down, you can never destroy me as a man. You're not capable of, because only I is capable of my own destruction, right? So this idea of the guard up may be different in the way that we look at it, but my wife could never destroy me. She could have the full force of the law behind her, but she will never destroy me at all.
And that's
I
a
will
good
laugh. Yeah, I will laugh at you from the fire that you burn to destroy me with, right?
And right, most men don't have this confidence. You know what I mean? A lot of men, right? And you listen to a lot of these women on the panels. The number one thing they all align with, that a man should be vulnerable, right? Because that's their power. So I agree with you. Like, gotta keep strong. You are the foundation, right? You can't be weak like her. You can't fall into her level. You just can't give all you like that. But once again, emotions, right, are very dangerous when they are unstable.
Yeah, this is the thing this is the thing that surprises me, though, Ruthless. What is vulnerability that is being discussed at a mass? What the hell does that mean? Does that mean does that mean when I break down and cry because my boss was mean to me? Fuck that shit.
Jodeci or Keith Sweat.
Yeah, look, I always, the reason why vulnerability is a trigger in the masculine mind is that I don't know what to be vulnerable about. I'm a man, right? I will reveal to you all the ranges of a man is capable of. But this idea of vulnerability for me is like, what about? What am I being vulnerable about?
Well, some women let their guards down, right? Like they start crying. They tell her, "You hurt me. You're hurting me." You know what I mean? Like, you got men who I've seen it. You know what I mean? They suicide behind this, right? They just can't.
I see it too. Yeah. So construction in our community, in particular, the Tongan community, the leading rate in suicide here in New Zealand, right? So I see it, and the thing is, to me, is I know strength because I've been weak, and this whole idea of vulnerability to me, like, if the world is against me, the last thing I should be doing is crying about it. I should figure out how to fight, and I should die fighting. What the hell is crying going to do? It's neither going to solve my problem, nor is it going to fight my battles for me. So this whole idea of crying to me is non-existent until there's a loved one that has passed away and there's nothing else I could do. I cry, and I share, the impulses of sadness and selfishness in terms of endearment. But there is nothing that comes to me in life that shakes me to the point where I should cry. And if that's the case, a woman cannot do that to me either. And people may talk about the idea of, he's such a sweet guy because he cried about bullshit. Get the fuck out of here, right? Be a man. There is nothing else you can be but to be a man. And if you require at least some perspective into that, come and find Palofesa, come and find Ruthless, come and find Will from the Kava Club. But this idea of crying, your life has never beaten you down to the point where you should shed a tear. Stand the fuck up and fight. Right? So, it's interesting, this whole notion of vulnerability to me, because it is used it's not used as a weapon like how most people think it is. It's used as a weapon in the sense of it's a death by 1,000 cuts. The moment you start being vulnerable, whether she uses against you or not, you start cutting yourself. and you get vulnerable again, and you get vulnerable again. And it's a death of 1,000 cuts because you now are accustomed to that. And out of the blue, you wake up and go, what the fuck happened to me? I've lost my instinct, and I've dulled my instinct as a man, and all I can do is to be soft. You know, one of the ideas that we talk about with Will is that I as a man should be the rock and foundation for everything that is within my care to crash into. How the fuck am I going to withstand if I'm always soft? Right? I should be hard and I should be strong and I should endeavor to always be. And if I'm weak, I should find another man and to be proficient in the thing that I'm weak in.
To your point, right? This is why most men shouldn't get married. Because every man, when they get
I don't want to be with another man, Ruthless. What are you trying to preach here?
I'm not saying that. You don't have to get married.
Men should be with women.
I can be with women, but not get married. Right? That's why a lot of men shouldn't get married, because you're an outlier, right? You're an outlier. You have balance. You understand. Okay, I could be married to this woman. I could raise my family and still be strong. I don't need to acquiesce to her every emotion, her every right. You understand that there's a line. There's a certain line that you have to carry in this house to show that you're that man. Most men, they tend to fall weak. Like they share, and the next thing you know, their woman is throwing them out the house, taking the kids.
But
they tell the kids, and they tell the kids.
Ruthless.
The women tell the kids he ain't shit. I'm telling you, these women are smashing out here and they're not playing.
That's See, you take that out. You take that as why should a man approach danger when he can avoid it completely? Then I look at it in the sense of this is the greatest danger a man could ever expose himself to, and to test his might and his will as a man. Therefore, I should pursue it. So that's where our points are a little bit differ. Is that I see women as one of men's greatest challenge, and right.
So when America sends out their mercenaries, they're not going to pick every man on that mission, right? They're not going to put every man on that mission. They're going to put a select few to go do the job, to get the job done. Same thing in a marriage, right? There's a select few of men. Not every man can. This is a very difficult task, man.
Then I say to that, Ruthless, let the select few be the one who seek my help. Right? Let the select few be the one who seek our help.
Can't help
right? Certainly, we can't help everyone, but let those select few be the successful story. Let them be the one that seek the help.
And they are. They are. Like,
so
there's guys that the select are success, right? But the majority are unsuccessful because once again,
yeah,
you know what I'm saying? Once again, most men when they get married, they go in with blindfold,
and they kept themselves.
Once the blindfold comes off, it's like, what did I get myself into? I thought this was my.
And that's what I mean. A death of 1,000 cuts. That's precisely what I mean. A death of 1,000 cuts is that. The whole idea of vulnerability, I no longer see it as a weapon used by a woman. It's essentially your vulnerability is a dagger. You use it to cut yourself. And the more you practice it in a relationship, is the more you cut yourself. Should you be vulnerable, go seek strong men. That's where you manifest those things. You go seek the Ruthless. You go seek the Palos. You go seek the Will. And that's where those things are. And if you come to me and say, "Oh, dude, my boss was mean to me," I'm like, "What the fuck are you talking about? That's not vulnerability. You're just being a pussy." Right? And only men can say these things and have some weight behind it. When it comes from a woman, it's very it's a way to use men's weakness against them. But when it comes from another man, I acknowledge your weakness. Therefore, I can say to you, "Don't be weak." Because I understand what the destruction that comes from weakness, right? So, should you want to bear the weight of your responsibility, stand up and fight. And if you don't, lay down and die. It's simple as that. That's our life. You know, to bear the burden of your responsibility, fight. And if you don't want, just lay down. Either one, you have to decide. And you're going to decide based on whether you want to align with me, another man you seek guidance from, or you don't. Seek someone else who would rather lay down and die a slow, painful death, or you want to fight until your very end. And that's I think for me, that's the beauty of the masculine mind conversation, is that should be the conversation. That should be the conversation rather than the surface level talking points that we throw each other of. Oh, what about ism? It's like, okay, you provide me with a perspective, let me provide you with another one. How about stand and fight? Can you manage that? Can you endure that? Can you endeavor to do that? Right? So this has been a great conversation, by the way.
Like, we finally get along.
Hey, Ruthless, I want to address something that you said.
Yeah.
And of course, everyone in the live chat, thank you so much for being on the live. Appreciate you guys. Lord Punisher, Vin, FTW, CVIT. Appreciate you guys. Keep the live chat popping. Let me know what you guys think. I always love to hear your perspectives in the live chat. I think you brought up something earlier in the podcast, Ruthless, because I've heard it so many times when it comes to the red pill spaces in these discussions, because men, we build the world and we build the infrastructure. We don't, and correct me if I misquote you, that we don't need women, right? Because we can survive by ourselves.
In theory, yes.
In theory, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Do you believe in that? Do you believe in that stance that I often hear from a lot of podcasts on the space?
That men don't really need women to be great or to be successful, right? Men, we don't. It's proven over and over again, right?
Yeah.
So women, but are women an asset in the production cycle? Yes, right. But you don't need to get married to that, right? You can just, that's just something. It's just going to happen, right? Production is going to happen regardless of marriage or no marriage, right? But the problem, what men need to understand, we are forgetting are what we are as, once again, apex predators. We are the standard when it comes to men, women, and children, right? We are the standard of survival. We are the standard of structure, right? If you've ever been to prison, you know there's structure, right? There's men gathered together, there's leaders, then there's everything goes a certain way, right? You see more in that setting because then, right, it's all about survival. And once it comes about survival, then it's about, okay, we're going to form this unit. And then this unit's going to have, right, we're going to have discussions. This is what we do, right? Yeah. And when we go to war, when it's time to go to war, we know, right, this is what we got to do. We don't bite on it. This is it, right? We know what this is. We know what that is. Or we're going to avoid war, then we know exactly. We don't deal with a lot of emotions, a lot of unstableness. We're very stable. So in essence, men, do they actually need women to be great? No, we don't. Do we need women to be financially successful? No, we don't. Right? Yeah. You see Donald Trump, he don't even care. He is who he is, right? He said how he want women, and he's successful, right? He's one of the standard of success. So we really don't need them to be successful. So my bottom line is a woman is more of a luxury. Yeah. And it's not a bad luxury. It's not a bad luxury. It's just like, I mean, I know y'all want to overvalue women, but most men overvalue women. Yeah. To where they feel like I can't live without them. I can't live without her. And this is where their women are moving. This is where they're moving in a power position, in a winning position. So as men, we need to understand where we are in a chain of hierarchy, right? We can't, there's nothing wrong with having a conversation with women, spending time with her and want to build, right? And protect and all that shit. Ain't nothing wrong with that. But know that, you got to know that she's not your equal. You got to know that she needs to be, in a subordinate, right? She needs to be in her place so that this household can function and maximize the full growth potential. And that's with me at the helms. So because we already got the data that women at the helms is just chaos. It's chaos. So yeah, In theory, we really don't need women. We can hunt. We know how to cook. We can cook our own food. We can iron our own clothes. We can do everything.
Yeah.
Plus build and maintain society structure. See, it's just so much more, man. It's not even close.
I agree with everything you said. We're the ones who build the infrastructure. We're the ones who who fight all the wars. We're the ones who work all the dangerous jobs. Because that's always what a lot of when we have these discussions, especially with the topic today, when we're talking about do men need marriage, and when we say marriage, I don't really mean like the marriage of the Western society definition. I just mean like long-term relationships, like being in a committed long-term relationship with a woman and starting a family. But I guess for me is I believe men and women, we do need each other, and I know it sometimes. What I do see a lot of the red pill space that I do believe that kind of divides us is this the stance that men don't need women and women don't need men. But let me ask you this question, Ruthless, because we understand that men, we build infrastructure, we work the most dangerous jobs, we are the ones going out there to fight the wars. Why do you think most men are incentivized to do all those things?
It's our nature.
Do you think do you think it's our nature just to fight wars, or
Yes.
it's our nature just to be successful, take risks, be ambitious, build infrastructure to progress society? Do you think men are doing that for themselves, or do you think there's another incentive biologically within us, that the reason why we do all these dangerous jobs?
It's our nature. It's what we do. It's what we do. Maybe now we might all have a different way we do it. Yeah. Right? But ultimately, we like to take over shit. Right? Get 5, 6 guys like-minded together, 10 guys together, and they see other weak men. They might come take it. We're gonna take their shit and they women and kick them, this is what we do. This is by nature. This is the way it's been since the beginning of time. This is the way it's been since the beginning of time. Right? Back in the day, men used to tell, when a group of dudes used to pull up on them, they used to tell the wife to tell them you're my sister. Because if you told them this was your wife, they would kill you and take your wife. Yeah. Right? If you didn't have no army behind you, they would just take you out. So once again, men have always been warmongers. Men have always been conquerors. Men have always been, it's just the way God made us, our nature, right? And we have order. A lot of men have brought order because we understand that, when you're dealing, especially in the Western world, dealing with capitalism, right? And United people are dealing more into building more financial stability, more financial wealth. We've civilized it more to where people can then move the nation forward in wealth and successfulness as a country. But within that, we lost our way, right? Within that, we lost our way. We started letting women who, for many, many years, just looked at that like, wow, I just wish I could do that, right? I wish I could, this man could kill 40 men and go to sleep like that happened. No, I understand. No, I agree. I understand that as men, we accomplish all these things. But do you also, do you believe that one of the primary incentives for most men of why we do the things that we do and why we try to rise in the hierarchy of men and status is access to women, right? No, because we got that anyway. Right? Many moons, men just take it. Right? Long time ago, before the world was civilized, men just, you're my wife. That's it. Yeah. So we've always had access to women. We always have access to women. Now, we didn't do this to ask for access to women. We did this because different ideologies came about on how they want to live their lives. Because even in Africa, there's still war porn over there, right? They're like, a lot of places, old school, man. They did war. All they do is war each other. Still, like back in the day. There's still many countries like that in the jungles, right? South America and all that, they still, like the 1800s down there, they still warring. So it's just that different ideologies are coming about on how they want to do it. And in the Western world, it's more about building the family to make more money as more of a social security number to bring in capital. And this is why they protect the women more, to obviously keep the race going so they can make more money.
No, I understand. No, what I'm saying is that when I hear on the online when men say we don't need women, right? Because we can build the infrastructure. The way I disagree with that, because I think as men, one of our primitive nature and desires and within us, our incentives, the reason why we want to compete and rise up in the hierarchy, so we can have access to women and to get a woman. And my problem, and I guess the thing is for me, what I'm kind of concerned about is when we tell men not to pursue relationships, not to pursue long-term or marriage, and removing themselves from pursuing women, then we're kind of removing the incentive for us or the natural desire for us to improve and to build a better society. Because the incentive for most of us, whether you're aware of it or not, but as men, the reason why we try to build wealth and finances and to create this world and be more ambitious, because we know one of the benefits of that is we have access to women, and we have access to choose multiple women and get to choose the women that we want. The men who are at the bottom, who are not at that level, they don't really have access to women. There's guys on the top or the mid level who have access to women. So I guess that's my concern for a lot of guys, because it's in our nature to provide and protect. And if we try to tell men not to pursue a long-term, you don't need a long-term relationship. You don't need to pursue a relationship. Then I think because one of the biggest complaints about today's men's generation is why a lot of these guys are weak and docile, and they don't have they lack purpose. They lack purpose to better themselves and self-improve as men. But I think one of the reasons why we do self-improve, or why we do the certain things that we do and overcome a lot of the struggles and the things that we put ourselves as men to improve as men is for a woman, is for a family, is for a long-term relationship.
Well,
we're not doing all this work just for ourselves and not access to sex.
Once again, brother, I hear what you're saying. There are some men who think like that.
Yeah.
But let me give you a pure example. When I went to hit my first penitentiary, right?
Yeah.
I had a fiance, a son with a baby mama, right? With great resources, right?
Yeah.
When I first hit, that was weakened me in the start of my sentence, right? Was attachment to that. Because once that was taken from me, right? I thought that what purpose do I have? Or why should I go on, right?
Yeah.
As a young man with lacking experience, I thought, oh man, this is my fiance, my kid. This life ain't what is it? But then once I got sentenced and I hit the behind the walls, right? And then it became a new life for me, right? I learned that, damn, the world ain't gonna end, right? I could still live on without my woman. I love to have her, but I'm gonna have to survive like this, because in there you don't have the access, okay? And it's more about building a program, building a way to communicate, because there's a lot of rules, and men are governed men. You have the CEOs, and you have the ward and all them. They're there to just pretty much govern the totality, but the inmates run the asylum.
Yeah.
Okay? And you have to move with respect. You got to move with understanding, because in any second a war could break out, or somebody could take your life. Everybody here got life sentences. Everybody got 15 life sentences, right? They ain't caring. But you're going to get more and more life taking your life. So you have to move in a way, yet we're not being vulnerable. We're not being abstract to the outside world of these women, right? You got to focus in here. You got to focus on how to master this. And then through that, I learned that, oh, shit, this is possible. So when I got out, my views were different about, okay, I still lust for women. I ain't gonna lie to you, I still lust for them. But this woman does not define me as a man. My life has been defined, redefined, right? So I'm already understanding, and I'm already on the understanding part of me that after seeing all the men in prison and all their women walk on them, 98, 97%, all their wives, the kids, they walk. They walk, guaranteed it. And ain't because the guy was cheating, they just, oh, he ain't there, they go get another, take his place, right?
Yeah.
You know, and now he got to deal with this emotional roller coaster and disappointment. So, and I've seen men survive this. So I've witnessed this in real life. A man can still be the man without the woman. He's just doing it. Now, and then let's take it back to the real world, right? Out here, the reality, more of it. Okay. Even the very men at the top, right? The very wealthy, right? Yeah, they got women that's just a luxury for them. Yeah, a lot of them get married, but she's just a fixture. She's just there. Oh, yeah, this is my wife. Yeah. But he's going to party, right? He's boning all these different women, paying them to shut up, right? That's why Heidi Fleiss was such a big popular name in Hollywood, because she was the madam, right? And she had the black book, right?
Yeah.
Right. So men, yes, the top elite men get married. Yes, it's more for politics and more for, but at the end of the day, the women are just a luxury. It's not the ultimate prize. The prize of life is a man achieving in his abilities and maximizing in his potential as a man to be that guy, to be in live his truth and his dream, whether the woman's there or not. Now, if she's there as to Paulo's point, because you want to build a legacy, you want to build more, right? That is her role. You're there to breed. Right now, you want to take it to more Disneyland, and ride horses and jump off golden brick streets. I mean, you can do that, but ultimately, her role there is to breed. You're the king of the castle. You're there. Your purpose already in action. You just picked her up along the way and said, "Okay, you want to come along for this ride? Because I'm going to be great with you or not." And this is the attitude men have to have. We can't keep playing in a losing mindset. Oh, well, without women, if I ain't got no women, because then now the women are looking at that weakness and capitalizing on it. And we are men are being embarrassed and shamed before the very world. We got women up here saying men are trash. Y'all ain't shit. And once
We
again,
don't listen to those women.
I'm not saying ruthless. I'm not saying that the women are the ultimate prize. I do agree with Balafessa. Is like our ultimate purpose in life as men is to have a family and to create the next generation, right? Have children and create a legacy. But you need women, right? So all you need relationships with a good woman and create a good relationship for a great legacy. Because the
that's
topic
that's what you're wrong. We don't need a relationship. We just need sex.
No, that's where we differ.
The relationship is, once again. So let's be real honest here, right? We have our phase where we just run through women, right? We just want some. We're not looking to marry every woman we be. We're not winning to wife every woman we run into. She look good. Oh, I want to hit that. Then that one comes along, right? You meet that one and say, oh, okay. Well, whoa. Okay, I'm sitting right. That's how it goes. But all men, 99% are by nature just want to have sex with women. This is why and breed. This is what we're here to do. This is most of our purpose. For most of us, not all of us, but for most of us. And then when you want to find a wife along the way, like you guys want to build it in a way where, okay, I want to do it with somebody I care about. That's your prerogative, and I'm not speaking against that. You understand what I'm saying? I'm not speaking against building your legacy with someone you care about or somebody you honor in a way as someone important. I'm not speaking against that, but that is not absolute to get to your goal.
I know how to articulate this, and this is where our perspective takes another fork. Ruthless is that I agree with the idea of a man should explore the range of his capacity. Right? He should. That is his purpose. But a big part of that purpose and the verification of that purpose is how far can you extend it in your lineage. This is where legacy comes from. So I as a man can pursue and become great, but without any offspring to pass on the same sort of things that I have, then it's meaningless. It ends with me, right? So that's where we differ in a lot of these conversations, because people look at legacy as just children. The mere fact that I have an offspring that is roaming the world, to a lot of men, that is their association to what a legacy is, and they deem themselves fulfilled in that manner. But we all know that that's not the truth. A part of us and the incentive of most men is the idea of immortality. The idea of reproduction is the idea of immortality. The idea of preserving your DNA or your genetic makeup is the idea of immortality. And how well can you preserve that further than just your DNA? You pass on your skill sets, you pass on your values, you pass on your principles. So that's where we take the fork in terms of this idea of legacy and purpose. Yes, I agree that a man should explore the ranges of his capability as a man, but it is not a verification of what your purpose is. I think for me, children is a verification of that and how well they are in the world that they grow up in. And for me, in order to optimize the passing on of the torch per se, a woman is part of that process, and to fully develop and give all the tools required to most children, there has to be a balance in that environment, right? So this is why I think it's almost a liken. The statistics when it's considered to two-parent household and single fathers is very similar, if not the same. So it's the same degree, but I know of a lot of other studies that are being conducted that might sway a little. But even anecdotally, my father raised me from the age of 6 until 14. So my mother passed away at 6. So looking at those ideas, although I experienced life at a very much faster pace, there is still that outbalance that I had to figure out throughout the entirety of my teenage years up to my young adults. So we're not saying that men's primary incentive is just to get with women. It is part of that purpose.
Yeah.
The purpose of the man is to pursue his capacity to its entirety. A woman is part of that. And in order to preserve his lineage, his legacy, that must be passed on. And unfortunately, not a vast majority of men will be unsuccessful in passing on that capability if the woman is not in compliance or in supportance of his vision, which is why the marriage thing is the conversation today.
Here's the problem with your argument. A relationship is a gamble, not a guarantee.
Your legacy is a gamble. Your vision is a gamble.
You're gambling on this woman, right? You're gambling, right, on this woman to reciprocate the very thing that you want to.
Again, see, Ruthless. This is the thing, though, is that just because it's a gamble, I'm not scared of the outcome. Whether I fail or I don't, that's the excitement of the pursuit, is that I dare to pursue greatness in the idea that I might as well be a failure. And should I be a failure, I accept my fate, but should I be successful, therefore my legacy carries on another generation or furthermore generation. Everything in life is a gamble, even the woman. This is why earlier in our conversation, the woman is the greatest challenge for a man, because that is his biggest gamble. That is his biggest risk. In order to achieve his legacy carrying on, he must pursue a woman, because a woman is part of that purpose. So although you present a very good argument in the idea that women are a gamble, again, that does not scare me, and I don't think men should be scared of that gamble. that risk is right up your alley in your capacity to be a man. Puff your chest, put it up high, and say, "How dare you try and destroy me? Should I fail? I fail. I fail in my pursuit, but my pursuit is greater than my fear of failure. You know, my pursuit of legacy is greater than my fear of failure."
I'm not disagreeing with that. And men are gambling.
That's fine. That's fine. I agree it's a gamble. I agree so I don't disagree that it's not a gamble.
So, but we got the numbers. We got the numbers, and we got the stats to back us to say that why are so many of these relationships and long-term relationships and marriages are failing? Right? Why? Why is the numbers
but
like?
Marriage is not. Wait. So this is where I present the data back to you. The marriage rate is not over 50% for first-time marriage. You have a 40 to 50% chance of a failure of first marriages. So the numbers are, and I agree, this is where I agree it's a gamble, but the number doesn't overweigh towards one side. You have a 50-50, essentially, which is the prime definition of what a equal gamble is. So I agree on that basis, but it's not overwhelming at all.
No, and then also as a second marriage, even is higher that you divorce, right? So I'm saying,
so we're not talking about second marriage. We're talking about one hit, and that's all you need, right? So that's where we're trying to talk from.
Right. Okay. So all I'm saying is what Kava's Club saying is that the woman. I'm not saying a woman doesn't have a role.
Oh, she absolutely has a role. She has a position to play in, and she needs to be in that position.
I'm not saying that a man who wants to build his legacy, how he wants to build his legacy, fine with me. You want to get married? Do it that way? Fine with me. If you want to have a plethora of women who are concubines, fine with me. Right? However, the human race is not defining the structure of which we're determined by our man's greatness. It's not defined by a woman either. Right? So all I'm just saying is the woman was made for the man, not the man for the woman. Right? And God completely instructed that the husband should rule over his wife. So we have understanding that, yes, in utopia, we all want to get married and have a family of, that of our dream, a wife of our dream, kids, right? We all, I'm not disputing that. But the reality is, this is why this YouTube conversation is so huge now, never before in history. This YouTube conversation about this is historically unprecedented, because people couldn't believe that women were this savage, right? To the point to where men would totally just, give everything to them, and they all to them. And then when you got the,
I want to hold on to. I need to hold on to an earlier point that you made real quickly.
Yeah.
So you say that a woman has no determination whether a man's legacy is great or not. This is where I push back, and this is why it's important that we recognize these things very, very briefly, is that then how do we then describe to the children who are growing up in fatherless home not to hate men? Right? How do we describe to young women not to hate men and to have this idea of, I'm better without men, I don't need no man? In a vast majority of those households, the reputation of that man has been utterly destroyed by that woman. And his children have grown up to hate a man who's possibly could have been and wanted to be involved in their lives. So this is why we can't just say, or for me personally anyway, is that we can't just say to men, a woman has no position to play in terms of your legacy. You're going to be great either way or not. If we agree that men should have children and should bear children, not to the degree that women do, but to have children to establish their legacy, then the woman plays a very important part in that. And we now know the repercussion of when a woman is disobedient to the man that she's with, is that his image is destroyed by the people that should matter most to him, his own legacy, his own bloodline. I don't care how much you're praised within your colleagues or how you're praised within your peers. If in the eye of your child you are the villain of the story, you're destroyed. Your whole legacy is destroyed. Right? So that's, for us, it's the acknowledgement that there is a vital and important position that women play. just as much as we as men play in our society. And the idea of marriage, it's not so much of the institution that it exists in. We already acknowledge that. The institution that marriage exists in the West, especially in the US, is set up to destroy men should it fail. So the idea is, how do we avoid failure or minimize failure if we can't avoid it at all?
Well, and to that right there, to that point, our women have to start selling out for the Bible. They can't bite the fruit, right? They're selling out for money. They're selling out for independence, right? They're picking themselves over the family. They're picking to go after Instagram over the family. They're picking
Correct.
the things that are hurtful over the family. Like, they're quitting. And it's irreconcilable differences. Finances.
So let those.
The thing of it is, right, Paulo, is the women are the ones that are initiating, and they're the one who's not only initiating, right? They also have movements going on about men and women should be separate altogether, and men only good for sperms, right? So we have to understand our women have took the bait, right? They took the bait which the government set out there for them to take, and they're using this as their leverage to move against and move for equality, and if not a hierarchy of them being superior in a sanctimonious mindset to men. And they're using our sexuality as men against us, saying that, oh, y'all like to have sex with all type of men, women, da-da-da. But they're just as much as hoes as anybody else in the world is. So at the end of the day, how do we set the tone in our house? First of all, you need less government. That's one, right? You got to have less government. If you take the government out of the equation, then a man is able to operate in his full authority as a man, the physicality mixed with the psychologically, then he's able to lead correctly. But as long as you got pro-government in your house, right, you're now going against her and the government to try to manage your household.
Yeah, so this is where I present the idea of, I agree wholeheartedly with those case studies and those stories. I am going against the government with the way that I establish the rules in my house. I'm a traditional man, and I've been married to almost a decade now. My wife cannot do anything without consulting me, and I don't force it upon her. It was the deal from the day we met. These are my standards of me based upon who I am as a man. You either follow them or don't. The moment that you deviate out of it, I'll correct it. And if you deviate too far, then you're out of the door. Right? So even those things, right? My wife consults me in the dresses she wears. If we go to a corporate function, she goes and do her shopping. She sends me all these type of photos and say, look, which one do you pick? Like that's a peek into the relationship that I have. So essentially, I'm going against the government, but I don't give a shit. Should you come to destroy me, I have all the avenues to exercise. But that's not the point. The point I want to try and make is that we haven't actually spoke about how men are and the condition that men are currently in now, and how do we rise out of that. I understand the government play a huge role in terms of nullifying a lot of the avenues that we can pursue. But again, it sounds as if we're just going to walk away from what makes men great, and it is the ability to strike at the God's feet, if you want to use that quote. And the idea is not so much that the women are the problem. I think the problem is that we're extremely divided, and we already touched this already in earlier points.
Paulo, you cannot tell me you don't hear the echo of Sister G's talking about deleting male babies.
Ruthless. Hear me out. I don't hear those voices because those voices don't matter to me. You give me example of women, and I say to you, I don't hear none of those women. And the women that follow those type of women, I don't associate with them, nor do my wife, nor do the people that I associate with. We've got to allow those women to destroy themselves if they want to head for destruction. And the idea that we should, this is the things that baffles me in a lot of the manly man conversations that we have on these platforms, is that we claim and puff our chest almighty and high, but as soon as a woman says some delusional shit, we're the first one to jump up and combat them. I don't compete with you. You're delusional. You spread your message to the women that you want to spread it to, and I'll say to those women, if you want to seek out your own demise faster than any destruction you'll ever undergo, do so and seek out that woman's guidance, because that is where you'll end up. And I'm not here to save you. I'm only here to save the people that are within my care. And this is my thing with this YouTube space. Stop listening to women that has no idea what the hell a man's life is. They have no weight in whatever the hell they're saying, and they will preach women to do that. And the moment that we give it attention is the moment we verify that those things make us tick. You know what these delusional women find great pleasure in? Is the ability to move a man outside his square. And we've seen that time from time again. And the moment that they move us out of our square, guess what? They come in drove. Oh, look. They speak about leadership, but where are the leaders? They speak about masculinity, but where are the masculine men? We say this, they react. We say that, they react. I'm like, I don't give a fuck what you say. It's delusional. And should you come after me, like, go ahead, but you can never outman me. Who the hell do you think you are to try and outman me? You can never move me out of pocket. You can never move me out of square. Say whatever you like. Dare destroy my reputation or whatever. But I don't associate with you, nor your words hold any weight to how I pursue the world. So we've got to stop allowing these women to have any say that moves us out of the... We can highlight them and say, look at these delusional women and what they say. If you want to accelerate your destruction, heed their warning and do what they say. If that's what you want.
I had a question for Ruthless. Hey, Ruthless, I don't know if this is something you think about, but do you want your I guess your legacy or your genes to live forever?
I really care less about that.
Oh, you want to care less? Yeah.
Because let me tell you why. Because I seen, and I guarantee tomorrow ain't promised, right? Tomorrow ain't promised to nobody. So yeah, you can plan all these things. You know, whole family can get, people die in accidents and cancer and COVID, all kind of stuff. So right, and I also see a lot of division out here in families, right? Trying to leave your people stuff. They don't even like you, right? They just want the money. So I'm not so much concerned if it's there. I'm not saying that I don't want it to be there, but I'm not going to make it where if it doesn't look like it's going to be worth anything, I'm not going to lose sleep over it. So legacy is any man's dream, right? And I'm not going to lie about that. You know what I'm saying? Say like I don't want or ever have the legacy, but it's not absolute. It is something I desire innately. I have a son, to carry on. But once again, right? Especially, I don't know if you guys are in the West Coast, but it's in the Western world, but it is dog eat dog world, man. And it's getting worse and worse. It's like the sons and the daughters are doing their own thing. Everybody's divided. And I mean, I hate to say it, my family right now, my uncle, he died, he has a estate, and I'm over it. But everybody is so hateful and so demonstrative and entitlement, right? That they want to lead other people up. It's just the money's dividing us more. Like, they don't bring us together. It ain't like, oh, well, look, we got all this. We're going to split this up. We're going to make this work. Or we can invest in the family something so we can. No, they, I feel I should get more. Or I feel like that. How they going to get some when I was there? You know what I mean? It's so difficult these days with social media, right? Everybody sees the prize. Everybody sees the success. It's right there. That they're taking shortcuts, right? Everybody wants a shortcut, right? And it's because the delusion is so strong amongst our women and as well as our men in a lot of cases that is creating a hostile environment to raise a family.
So if your bloodline ended with your son, you'd be okay with that?
Yes, I'm cool with that.
Okay.
I'm cool with that.
Okay. Can we agree that living in Western society, especially all of us in Western society, America, New Zealand, we can agree, Ruthless, that today's society is probably the best society to live in compared to throughout history, right?
Ooh. Well, it depends on where you're looking at it. If you're looking at it financially, yes.
No, I'm just looking about economics improvements,
You're
technology.
looking right.
Yeah,
Economic,
yeah.
yes.
Like we have
If
running water,
economically,
electricity. This is like the best time to live.
economically,
Yeah,
this is it, right? If you want to reach the fastest pace to a millionaire, this is the time, right? This is your time to the fastest.
I'm just saying, as far as like just the convenience of just living.
But as far as the Fed now, since we're on, because just leading to the topic, right? Leading to the topic of the marriage and to the family, it's the worst time. It's worse. Because now,
I'm trying to. I have a reason why I'm asking you this question. All right. So I mean, just as far as like in modern society today, compared to throughout history, we live in a very convenient and good society compared to any other time in history, right? Because we have running water, we have electricity, we have air conditioning. If we have technology, internet. This is the best time to live today compared to the rest of history, right? You agree with that, Ruthless?
it depends on what you ascribe to, but yes.
Okay. I know you said that you don't care if your bloodline ended with your son, and this is just a hypothetical. I'm just interested to hear your opinion. All the men in your ancestry that's overcome all the trials and tribulations, the struggles of civilizations in the past, but still continue to create the bloodline to continue it, to get to the point, to get to you. Do you think if you asked the men in your past ancestors that you know what, I don't care about continuing my bloodline, like, just hypothetically, I just want to hear, what do you think the most of those men would think that's in your past that would think that, do you think that would be with you saying that, you know what, if it ends with me, my son, it doesn't matter.
In my community, this is you got gangbangers, right? So it's I would say 60-40%, 60% say they want a legacy, right?
Yeah.
40% don't care. You know what I mean? Because they're out here about this life, toting pistols every moment. They don't really care for relationships. They're about that bag, and whoever gets in their way, So the government, you got the government involved, so they can be going off to the pen for however long, or they get taken out. So got some do or die guys out here. So as I say, about in our community, it's about 35-40% of those guys. Then the rest, I would say, do care about their legacy. They do care for them.
Okay. No. I mean, for me personally, for myself, the reason why it's important to me to create a legacy, because the way for me, though, just my own perspective is just I understand that every single man in my family, in previous generations, they went through a lot of hardship and obstacles, but they still found a way to create a family and to continue that legacy. And for me to stop that legacy or not care about it or not to preserve it, I think I'm for me personally, I just think that I'm failing all the previous men, all the strong men, like all the good men. I'm sure there's some bad men out there in my past, but all the good men that did the work to continue this. And I think it's just it's something I think about to continue on, because the fact that we're all still alive today.
That's why I said depends on what you ascribe to. Right?
Yeah.
In your cultural settings, that might be in a lot of cultural settings, it might be that way, right?
Yeah.
But in our cultural settings, that is not, mamas daddies throw kids out like ain't shit. Man, get up out of here, right? Our community is so divided right now within itself. It's a cancer. So it's a lot different mindset in this part over here. In your culture, I don't know what would be your.
Oh, we're Tongan. Me and Paulo were Tongan.
Oh well, shit. Hell, okay. So y'all know y'all got big family culture over there, right? Y'all fall in line with the Hispanics, right? Y'all family's really, really big,
Yeah.
Do you think that's a cultural thing, or more a lot of it? No. Do you think a lot of it is just the nature of a man to continue his bloodline?
It's cultural. A lot of it's cultural because people over here go with the trends, right? Everybody's about self over here. In this Western world, everybody's about self. Everybody's about getting to the bank. Forget
Will
everybody.
is in the US, by the way, Ruthless. He's in the Bay Area.
Yeah.
Okay, he knows. So he knows. He
Hey,
knows that. That's in the Bay Area.
Hey, Ruthless, aren't you glad that your ancestors didn't have your mindset? That you're still alive today?
Well, I mean, my ancestors are. They all see my ancestors. Man, there's a lot of gang activity, a lot of thugs, gangsters.
Well, I'm talking about like going back 1,000 years, right? Aren't you glad that's 1,000 years of ancestry? They still wanted to procreate and didn't want to.
You know, God made a way, right? God brought me here, so whoever God wants you is going to be here.
Yeah.
And when you get into talking about who's over life and death, right? God who God wants to be here is going to be here for however long He wants him to be here. So I can accredit that to God Almighty, the Creator, for making me for His purpose.
Yeah.
Right?
So I think we analyze. So the thing I appreciate about the masculine mind is that we analyze a little bit deeper into how things come to be, which is why we refer prior to the sexual revolution, where we speak about God and how blessed we are that God has been instrumental in the ways that we. So let's go that route. If we want to acknowledge. So for my side, if we want to acknowledge God for His grace to allow us to exist, then we have to acknowledge just the instrument He's put in place for us to be in the position that we are now, to speak. There has been different equations over time, right from the beginning, that God has put in motion to determine our being now. And thousands of years from now, I hope that the children that comes from my lineage would see it in the same way. It's not that God just had an epiphany one day and said, let me put Ruthless on earth. Those things, I guess, when we understand the gospel, is God has a plan, and in those plan has been devised from the beginning. So the appreciation goes deep and further, in those things, and that I think that's where it comes back to the idea of being thankful for the ancestors, if you want to put it in that way, is that those have been derived solely for the idea that I'm here today. Let me carry on that legacy and let me carry on that work.
Yeah.
What do you call it? Yeah, I think it's just a fork of ideas, and I can see where someone comes from, and the idea of I don't care whether my legacy dies with me or dies with my son. And maybe I can concede to the idea of cultural differences, but to me, it's extremely. It then serves that it's extremely unimportant my existence if that's the case. If my existence ends with me, then I should just end it. Because if that's the case, then why endeavor and pursue and
Improve.
face suffering, right? Should it all end with me? Why the hell should I carry on if that's the case? So a big part of that is I should carry on, and we're in a day and age where peace have become such a normality in a lot of people's lives that we now contemplate a lot of these things. It's no longer instinctual, but when we do a deep dive into a lot of these philosophies, we ask the question, then why am I here, or why do I do the things that I do? We do it so that we preserve the way that we look at the world, and our legacy is the biggest thing that we do that through, right?
But now
And-
the thing is, right,
And
to interject a little bit, to understand that not once again tomorrow's not guaranteed to none of us.
Of course.
Right? Some
I accept that wholeheartedly.
we lost
that.
we lost people along the way, right?
I accept
So-
that.
And then they didn't never get a chance to build. There's people who never got a chance to build a legacy. There's some people who build big legacy, Pastor. So it just, I mean, how you're born into this world, and how your life's going to end, and everybody's not going to end in the same way, right? It's just not going to happen. Right? Some people are just here for a little bit of time. Some people are here for a long time. Some people are here for a short time. We just going. I mean, like to you
I
guys.
agree.
We all want things, we all want things, and some people, like you guys, ascribe to family and legacy, right? Which is very big in your culture to be, because I deal with Tongans and Samoans, right? And that's very big over there. But over here, and it's just for like our culture, that's not a sort of ideology for us. We just do it. Sex just happens. Sex a lot of happen. Kid happen. Oh, a lot of them like, man, I don't want that baby. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna keep the baby, right? We have all this going on over here. We ain't got no. A lot of dudes ain't living. A lot of dudes is living for the day to day.
But it wasn't. But Rufus, for your culture, it wasn't like that, right? There was a time when you're in your culture that family mattered and continuation of legacy mattered, right? Yeah.
But it's
just now. It's just now.
It's just. Well, I'm just saying. Ideology is different.
Yeah.
And when it comes to the things that you two seem to proliferate and like project onto us, right? Family structure.
Yeah.
And I'm not against that, right? Just saying is, in particular, my culture. This is why we're a lot of us on these things, because we do want to get to that, back to that. A lot of us want to go back to that, to where you guys think, right? A lot of us want, and mainly the men, we want to get to that, what they call nuclear family mindset again.
Yeah.
And what we're trying to do over here in the Western world is tame our women in a ethical argument and such forth, which they're not, and they're in full resistance. So I'm not going to say to you that a man shouldn't want a legacy. But I'm not going to say to a man to chase something that could destroy him as well. Right? To each his own. This world, whether you live 100 years or live 2 seconds, is going to go forward. It's going to go forward. Whether you have a successful marriage or divorce, it's going to go forward. LeBron James from a single mom parent household, and success is unlimited in his life, right?
Yeah.
Some parents, they got success. So I mean, who all we can do is project to our kids and within our reach and say, look, we hope the best for you. This is what we would like for you, because most parents want the best for their kids. Yeah. And not all kids agree in what we want for them, but they have.
So the acknowledgement is the acknowledgement is that from different background in terms, especially in cultural backgrounds, I can acknowledge that it might not be the case where family is important, say for your community, but the mere fact that a vast majority, and you mentioned that a vast majority are saying we want to go back to a time where both men and women agreed in the terms of their position that they play in relationship, and that a woman should be subservient to the authority of a man, and a man should be a leader, and all the things that that comes with it. If that is the wish of the most, then it is counterproductive to then say, oh, but it's not the optimal way. If the most is saying we see that as the optimal way to be, then it's counterproductive for me to say, no, that's not the optimal way. Why should you want it, right? Why should you want it? Because it's failing. Okay, it's not that.
Go ahead. My fault.
It's not that the idea of pair bonding, long-term relationship, marriages where it serves a purpose and a responsibility to each other. That's not the problem. That's just a tool and a symbolism of commitment. The problem is that people want it, but they don't want the solution that's given to them. And the solution is, man, work on being the man that you should be. You should never qualify yourself into the women. If you're going to want to have a family, you're not going to achieve that long-term in a quote-unquote happy environment if you're always challenging the man that you're with, right? So these are the things that people say. Okay, we want this because we see the current state of affair in our community is just, it's destroying each other. We're destroying ourselves. We want that thing, and when we speak about that thing, it is very counterproductive then to turn around and say, oh, but you don't want that thing. that thing is destruction now. You know, the risk is X, Y, and Z. And the thing for me then is then your fear of failure should not be greater than your want to have a long-term relationship to establish your legacy. You cannot. Otherwise, you'll be doomed to fail. If your fear of failure is greater than your wanting of legacy, any pursuit of legacy, family, relationship will fail because your fear will overwhelm you.
Yeah, and but we also have to remember this: that money corrupts. so
absolutely.
You're trying to raise a family in a world that's trying to take your family apart, right? Through the eyes, which are delusional about the results of the things that are without substance. So a lot of our women are seeing, right, things that are not really there, that are not really productive, but they're invested in it. They feel like they get an OnlyFans account. They don't have to be under a man's leadership. If they feel they go to a strip club, they got their own income. They don't need a man to be around them to be successful. These women are adopting this attitude, right? They are picking themselves over the family, over the man.
Here's the thing. Here's the thing, though.
Now, here's the thing, right? And here's the caveat: America is promoting this, right? They're getting behind them, like with the color purple, right? They're getting, look at the man, he's bad. The woman is good, right? Most women is a victim.
And I
right?
will say to that, ruthless, allow those women to destroy themselves.
But here's the problem, Paul. Not everything is always what it seems, right? This woman that you fell in love with and want to build with, she put a show on, right? She put a show on and led you to believe that she was going to be there 10 toes down, but got into the fight and the battle about 50% in, 60% in, and she changed her mind. Because in America, it's okay to do what you feel. And then she got outside forces telling her, you're better than that. Right? Her family's telling her, girl, you could do better. Everything is so much based on monetary value that we forgot about the principles which we're start up in this conversation.
But again, Ruthless, then where's your control as the apex or the authority or the leader? If all of these things are so influential, where do we come into play in these things as men?
America is wiping us out. That's why they're coming out with all these laws that are condensed to tame men not to put their hands on their women, not to yell at their women, not to talk to their women, but not to talk to their women in an authoritative manner. If you talk to a woman in an authoritative manner, she says you are misogynistic.
Then leave that woman. So here's the thing. I don't need to.
Let me explain. But all I'm saying is the women are using our words and our masculinity, and the government is using our words and masculinity against us to where unless you got a woman that's culturally engrafted, that's into that where you like you guys, you got action. But if you got most of these women who are Americanized, they have an independent mindset. And when they do marry you and do bring you in and will be your wife, they want equal, if not head of household duties. And this is a problem.
No, the problem is that we think authority and authoritative for men is to puff our chest and scream at women or to put our hands on them, right? That's the problem. And not only that, the big part of the issue is that men don't go into dating women without establishing what their boundaries are and saying to the woman, look, the door you came in is the same door you're going to head out should you want to go out. At any point you want to head out, you can. But under these roofs, these are my terms and conditions.
But now here's the thing.
And it's
Here's
hold
what you're
on,
missing. Here's what you're missing. It's a little different. It's a little different when you have kids involved. It's a little different when you invest emotionally in this person. It's a little different, right? When
it's not ruthless.
Let me tell you why. When this person's leveraging the system against you, right? The Me Too movement, all these movements that's going on that help women to thrive in their houses to be equal or more than their men. So if you try to come down on the women in a lot of these cases, Paulo, she's going to call you misogynistic and she's going to call the authorities on you. She's going to compare to therapists. She's going to build a case.
I have a wife. And I know. Look, I have a wife who's just offered to either plate me a hot plate now or put it in the microwave and wait for the stream to finish with 2 children running around in the living room. So I get what you mean, but the thing that we tell men that is very detriment to them is that marriage is the end of man. It is not. Children is the end of man. It is not. Right? And when we talk about these things, we don't go right to the root cause. And a vast majority of the root cause is that men will negotiate with women what their standards are, because we operate from a scarcity mindset. If men stood on the standards that they adhere to individually and say, look, these are the things I need you to support. Should you follow or don't follow, don't mean nothing to me. I can find another woman. There are millions and millions and millions of you. I need to figure out whether you're the one or not. And if you're going to follow me, follow me. And the moment you change your mind, I'll be the first one to open that door for you to let yourself out. Right? So relationship don't just happen out of the blue. Neither do people leave relationship just out of the blue. Like these things are a myth. Women using the Me Too movement is a small quantity of women who do these things to men. So it's not substantiated by data either. I'm not denying the fact that it is there, and I'm not denying the fact that it might be a lot more in a particular type of culture than it is everywhere else. I'm not denying that. But it's still a minority number that is not making a case for the entirety of people trying to be together.
Okay, so
men, the idea of men being limited by the government is a false narrative, because
Paula, if a woman could go she can go to a court, to a judge, right? And she can say, I'm no longer happy. I feel scared. I feel fear. The judge can order with you not even being present. You know what I'm saying? He will freeze all your assets. He will then without a court date, he will award her already to the basic things she needs to start the process of leaving you. She's getting the kids. This is a common practice at 75 to 80% of women in America. So I don't know, maybe in your country it's different.
80%? That's how women are doing it?
Yeah. But this is powerful. Like, how can you, right? You could say, this is why a lot of men they're opting not to get married, right? This is why it's better not to get married, because that's a lot of fucking power to give up, right?
But that's not the entirety of marriage. This is why
it's based upon trust, right? A entirety of marriage is based
ruthless.
upon principle.
The failure of first marriages doesn't support that argument. The reason why 70 to 80% is being used, because it's a bigger number than the idea of you have a 40 to 50% chance of either succeeding or failing in your first marriage. We're not this whole idea of second marriage is not where we're.
But that's right. I'm not disputing. What I'm saying is the practice. I'm not really trying to. It's even worse in relationships. The practice that these women are practicing, right? They're not practicing to be good wives. Everything.
I'm not denying none of that.
Okay?
Not denying none of that.
Point. They're practicing to get the man, right, to pretty much give them everything they want. If not, they then get bored, or they just lose interest, or they.
But here's it.
And then what they do is, although they use victim. They use victim. He's just abusive, right?
But this is the thing, though. Ruthless.
So
Hear me
I'll
out.
explain, Paula. So what I'm saying is this: if in this particular social construct, back to the very beginning of the conversation I led with, in this particular social construct, the government has a heavy hand. A heavy hand. This is why a woman can call you a bitch. Shut your bitch ass up, you broke ass motherfucker. They're saying this at an all-time rate because not because they can whoop the man or the man is weak. They know that, but they know if he makes one false move, got him, because he's going to jail, and he's going to pay large fines, and she's going to get everything. So these women know these powers, and they're using.
But here's the thing: the law is not restricting you from telling this woman, "Get the hell out of my household," and calling the police.
You're wrong. In America, maybe not in your country. In America, you can't even tell your kids that they're not your boy. If your son comes to you and tell you, "Dad, I don't want you to call me a boy anymore. I want you to recognize me as a woman." And if you do not abide to that, the kid could then go to the government, right? And then the government would then come to start the process. If you do not comply, to take that kid away from you and put him in a healthy that's going to let him feel like a woman.
But
this is
again, ruthless. These things only happens in places where men have no authority at all. We still do. We still do.
Not in America. I'm telling you. I'm trying to tell you, Paula. If I thought I could win in America.
So wait, hold on. So you have do you have no authority in picking the women that aligns with you? After we just spoke about women should qualify to you as a man, do we have no authority in whether we marry this woman or not? Do we not have authority over?
We do have that. We do have that, Paula.
Yeah. So this is the thing that I speak to. This is the thing I speak to. If you're under the guise or if you're under the philosophy that a woman should qualify herself to you, then you're not going. Your chances of being fooled is not that high at all. It's very minute. Because this woman is constantly having to prove herself to you that she can be an extension to you rather than be a destructive force to the vision that you build, right? So follow me on this one. So if that's the case, right, then why then do we just tell men, this woman is going to destroy you? So the fact that you should go through long-term relationship is detriment to you. When we know that if a man applies these things, the idea of a man being a man, the idea of a man holding authority and leadership through the competence that he acquires, the ability for a man to pursue all the ranges that is capable of and that is available to him. These things are damn near non-existent when they deal with women. And the reason for that is they have the ability and the foresight to see particular behavior that can lead to a very bad outcome. And it doesn't start, those recognition don't start 5 years to the relationship. It starts with the little attitude over a dating table on a restaurant. If she moves a certain way, it's like, I can see where this might lead. If you want to have a chance at me, that's not how you're going to approach me. And if you're going to approach me like that, have a nice night. I'm out of here. Right. So I acknowledge the reality that some men are powerless in their marriage, if that's the case, or in their relationship. I acknowledge that. But I also acknowledge that the method in order for a lot of men to optimize their success rate in relationship should come from the very beginning. In order for you to attain the philosophy of women should qualify to you, you have to do some work. And that comes from arrogance. And arrogance is built on undeniable evidence of what you're competent in. And what is that competence? You have to figure that out, those skills to be competent in. And that is usually sharpened when you're competing against other men.
But let me say this though, right? I would agree with you. But if you look at all the, I'm trying to tell you, man. This statement describing the Chase. Speaking to law enforcement about domestic violence.
No,
right?
What you're acknowledging is the reality we're trying to avoid when we speak on these issues, right? You're speaking to the reality, and what I'm speaking into it.
Right.
And what I'm speaking to is that I'm speaking to those.
I just want to read this to you go. Speaking to law enforcement about domestic violence, false claims is an eye opener, more common than not, and ever. So if she can lie, she can put. Come on, man. This is women lying.
No. I know. Look, Ruthless. I don't deny that those are the
power. How is my power as an apex predator able to be implicated to a woman who can lie on me and say, you know what, he touched me a little too hard and moved me around. I felt, and then go to cuff me, put me in a cell. Then I have to make bail. Then I got to get out. Then I go give me a court date. And yeah, I might beat it. You know, they might throw it out. But damn, she's already won because now I'm on my way down to the booking set. Right? I'm getting booked, and now I have to. It's supposed to be innocent before proven guilty, but not in this country. In this country, you're guilty before proven innocent. So now, once I'm court dated, said now I'm on probation, right? And she can do what the fuck she want to do. And now I'm my hands are tied.
Are we talking that this is the normal case for people dating other people, or is this in relationship?
Yeah, let me just read this real quick and I'll pass it back to you guys. Steve, shout out to you. Thank you so much. Good combo, guys. As men, we can't let fear cripple us and cause us to make excuses instead of improving. Not much, but had to show our appreciation. Thank you so much. Regardless, thank you so much for the support and donation. Shout out to you, Steve. Thank you so much. I'll pass it back to you, Paulo and Ruthless.
Yeah, what I don't want to get into is isolated incidents where we try and make a case for this is the environment that you're playing in a vast majority of the experience you're going to have. I don't deny that that's a possibility, that these things happen, right? So what I'm trying to evaluate here is that if we're going to tell men, okay, look, man, just go and sleep around and avoid any long-term commitment, and you know, children shouldn't matter as long as you pop a few babies here and there. We're just further promoting the downfall of a society that we're obviously wanting a different outcome for. So if the mass is saying, look, we're sick and tired of the outcome that we're having. We no longer can have control over what the children think that their imaginary gender is. We no longer have control in our own household. We no longer have control in all these facets. Then my question then becomes is that where do we go back? How far do we go back in terms of determining where we've broken down? And the breaking down we can identify is that we weaken the ability for a man to say, look, you can try and destroy me, even go beyond and try and kill me, but you're never going to change the character of who I am, and I know who I am. Right?
I'm agreeing with you on that, Paulo. I'm not. You misunderstand what I'm saying. Right? I'm not saying that she can destroy me as a man. I'm always going to be that dude, no matter what. But what I'm saying is they're destroying the family. What I'm saying is she is destroying the dream, the building blocks, right? And that the government is assisting her, right, in this destruction, right, that I got to build. Yeah, it's easy to say, let's just start all over again, which is cool. I can do that. I am not saying that it's like, if this happens, I'm going to go jump off a building and my life is over. No, I'm going to keep it pushing. But here's the thing, Paulo, what I'm saying. I'm moving. I refuse to marry any woman who I think I even feel she's a quitter, because I don't believe in divorce. Yeah, do I believe in marriage? Yes. I don't believe in divorce, right? So
neither do I.
This is not negotiable. So
hold it right there. Hold it right there, Ruthless. Right. So what then would be your advice to the young cat who's new in the game, who's coming up, and he's asking, look, I seen your result and I seen how you stand in your principle of, I'm not going to marry no woman who is going to be disobedient when it comes to aligning with what standards I have as a man.
Well,
what then would be the advice?
I just tell him, look, young whippersnapper, make sure you tread carefully. Understand, I told you, and I laid that disclaimer. Don't let all your guards down. Do your due diligence. Pay attention pay attention to how she reacts to things. If everything is, oh, I'm leaving you, or I'm quitting, or if everything is right, she's leveraging the relationship at any time. If she's leveraging her body, her vagina at any time, at any point in the proceedings, you must then walk away from that woman forever. Because and that's why I say it's very difficult to find women that's not like that these days, because that's what women are going to leverage in their relationship when they want to, get their way. And then if you try to tame them in a physical manner, because everybody knows that any civilization, you need a little violence. You need some, right?
So
America is demasculating the man as we speak right over here, right now, that they're not allowing for the man to be like that here in this country. Now, if you go to the Philippines, this is why a lot of dudes are leaving the country, right? If you go over different places, yeah, you can be masculine. Women ain't giving you a divorce. Go work that shit out. Right? And she's a better woman because now she understands that, okay, I have to fall in line with him. Okay, nobody can just let me free out here. And then, but here it's different. These women are literally saying, okay, I'll marry you. But they have one foot out. Paulo, they already know that, if you don't give me pretty much everything I want, this is not going to work. But they're going to tell you that up front. They're going to see how far you can go. They're going to see how far they can go.
That's where I disagree, and I disagree in the idea of women don't have the capacity to have that foresight. They don't.
Oh, they do. Women are very disingenuous about. Like some women marry for money. Most of them have that. Oh yeah, they let you know off the front. The standards of a woman is very high. 6 figures, 6 feet.
No.
There are women that.
So this is what I mean. Women don't have that range of foresight when they can pretend to be something and then flip the script 10, 20 years down the line.
Oh, yes, they can. Women, this is how they survive, Paulo. This is how they survived so many years amongst apex predators, because they knew how to be gazelles. They knew how to fit in. They knew how to pretend they were feminine when it was time to be feminine, and when it was time to be witch, they knew how to do that. Women have learned to survive. At one point, this is how they became. This is how they kept going. They didn't go out there and just come out here with guns and no. They was okay. We're gonna let them do it. Now, when America was formed and the Western world was formed, they kept knocking. Pillow talk. Put that pussy on you. Pillow talk. And then all of a sudden, men start sexual liberation. Oh yeah. You deserve it. Because she put that pussy on him. She kept telling, oh, what do you want to hear? Until he broke. But all the time she was trying to break him so she could be free. Look at our women, how they walking out here now. Decade. Damn, they don't know why they wear clothes right now. I'm talking about married and unmarried. They're in the gyms, right? Showing their gyms off. And they're married with husbands, but they're showing me everything they got right in the gym, in the strip club. All these women out here doing this shit. And I'm just like, this is disrespectful. But America gives them that power. Sexual liberation gives them that power. Feminism gives them that power. Equality. If you tell a woman to, hey, I need you to tone it down, she's going to look at you like, I'm your equal. This is what's rolling out here. And this is problematic when you got two egos in a relationship. Paulo, everybody has an ego. Men, our egos are bigger. So
I agree, but my thing goes back to this idea: women don't have the range of foresight, and I mean that in the instance of a woman, what you're talking about is a progression over time, where weak men have allowed women to make all these drastic changes all throughout, the movement of changes throughout time. That's not a direct answer to women by nature. When we observe them, don't have the foresight that deep to not mismanage, but to hide their true identity for 5, 10, 20 years in a relationship. They don't. What typically happens, and you can refer to whatever study you want to refer to, especially in the United States, what happens is a slow deterioration of the relationship over time. Right? So it gets to a point where that deterioration destroys the relationship completely. It's not a conniving plan of, this is our 20-year plan. I'm going to get with this man, get everything out of this man, and then in 20 years' time, I'm going to take him to the court and drain him of everything else. These aren't reality, and they don't have that level of foresight in order to get into a relationship. The other thing too is that every of these examples, you're describing to me a man who is not a leader, a man who is able to be influenced by a woman's quote unquote pussy, that he is so deep in blindness that he is just led to a point where, oh shit, I'm on a cliff and I'm about to fall off. That's not the type of man you and I are describing. That's false. I would qualify that as a man who is weak and has never extended the range of what a man should be. These are descriptors of men who have been led blindly by women.
It's not necessarily the pussy itself, right? But it's what women know we ascribe to, right? They know.
Well, wait, hold on, Rivers.
Women have figured us out, right? A woman has figured out that men, right, like you, for example, right?
Tell me this. Do you think that have you ever noticed any man who adopts my philosophy or your philosophy ever fail with women?
Yeah. All the time.
That'll be a first.
Yes, because
men who adopt your philosophy.
The only my philosophy right now, right, is the only way to do it right now. You have to get them to comply or let them fly. Right? Ain't no trying to.
That's exactly what I'm asking you. Yeah. Have you ever seen anyone who's adopted your philosophy, knows exactly the same thing as you, and said, look, women are going to be destructive if you allow them to be an equal to you?
Yeah.
Adopt my philosophy in the same sense. Do you think that those men also fail at the same rate as any other man?
I've had homies that we align on a lot of these issues, but then once again, right, they fall weak. Let me tell you a story. This is one of my best homies, right? He was a savage, right? He was beast. We had girls everywhere. We never, what? A bitch, what? Right? We had that, but he met this one day, it was at a club one night. This chick, she liked it me, but I was with had another chick coming for me. So I had to shoo her away, right? I was like, I ain't even gonna mess, I like my other chick better. So she got with him. I hooked him up. And so he took her home, he banged it, like, oh, okay, boom. I told him, because I told him, okay, it's time to get her out of here. Get her on, hit the road. He like, no. We're gonna have study group tonight. I said, what? We're gonna sit home and read and move. I said, wait, no. You know this woman we met at the club, she just, we just get your rocks off, man. You've been backed up for a minute. I just hooked you up with a free ticket. Don't make this move. This is like a weekend they met each other. He's already been with flowers. He's been a Valentine. It ain't Valentine's Day.
So do you think you're
giving it? I'm trying to bring it back.
I know the story, Ruthless. Huh? I know the story. It's all too familiar.
Right. I try to ring it back to Paulo. I'm like, come back.
I know.
But
here's the thing. Do you believe he adopted that sort of savage mindset because that was truly his character, or he adopted to get with women?
Well,
that'll be the differentiating factor, right? Is that this is my thing, is that when I say I am a man, therefore I am, it means that your character, your values, and your principles are non-negotiable, regardless of whether you're standing in front of a man or a woman. So when we see these cases of a man who's been extremely well with women, who's been quote unquote Casanova, starred, whatever that may be to women, and then you see them bend at the knee when they finally get that particular type of woman, then all of that was bravado, and all of that was facade in order to attain the woman.
My point is, right? My point is this, Paulo.
Yeah.
Is I've seen kings fall to women, and I've seen weaker men overtake women. Like, no, I'm shocked. I'm like, damn, this guy I thought was a simp, but he's really on point. So I've seen both sides. So ultimately, he, my friend who was that, he got caught up in the moment, right? And he started dealing with his emotions a little more. He relied on his emotions a little bit more, and the vision, right? He saw that this is who he wanted to build with, and he let that dismiss the red flags on how they met and how it all transpired. So my point is that in this game we play of life, we all have the very thing that we are as human beings. And most men, like yourself, even at me at one point, right? It's always to build with a woman that we want, that we care about. We don't want to really build with no 3 or 4. We want to build with a woman that we care about, that we want to, to share our life with and be cool and roll out, on a motherfucking sled. You know what I'm saying? But in reality, everybody just don't get that luck of the draw like that. And majority of men don't get it like that. It's heartbreaking. And I don't want to make fun of them. I'm not going to make fun of them and say, oh, yeah, you delusional ass. You didn't vet correctly. And you didn't this, that. All I can say is, man, I wish it would happen to you, because there's some dudes I have a great respect for. That we've done dirt together. That I know that this dude's a stand-up dude, but this woman took advantage of him, of his kindness, because he listened to his daddy and his mama talking about women are the prize, women are this, women are that. And then he thought, finds that women, there are good women out here, and he let his daughters down and got crushed.
But again, Ruthless, my question was very specific. Have you ever seen anyone other than yourself adopt a very specific philosophy that you and I have been discussing back and forth ever fail when it comes to a relationship?
Yes.
Then they don't. Then the philosophy, they didn't adopt the same philosophy as you and I.
It just once again, it's a gamble. He gambled.
Yeah, but
right? He gambled.
But the failure.
We us men, these type of men, we are risk takers. That's by nature. That's what we are. So he gambled on the wrong woman. He thought that she was a good woman. He thought that he could change her. He thought that he could put her into his. She pretended like he's falling on his program. And then she ended up messing with his best friend, right? And then they end up. Right, they were together like 2 years in the end. So my point is, he took a gamble and he lost in that particular situation. Am I going to crush his balls for it? No. You got to learn
Are
from
they
him.
still together?
No, hell no.
Are they still together?
Oh no.
Then he didn't lose. He didn't lose.
No, he lost
ultimately-
in his assessment. Right, he lost in his assessment of this woman in the very beginning when he was, what I mean. But it's okay. He learned from that.
Exactly. So that's where my point is. You're gonna fail, especially in the environment of women today. You're gonna fail a few of them, because some of them, what we need is men, unfortunately nowadays, is exposure, and we need to be in exposure to women and to know the little telltale signs that these women have when they're flaky, right? So most likely you'll have to go through 1 or 2, maybe a few more, in order to determine for yourself what that looks like when a woman is sly, when she's flaky, when she says one thing and do the other thing. So these things are important, but I wouldn't consider that as a failure per se. I would consider that as, you got away from that relationship, great. Then that woman wasn't suitable for you. So what then what becomes of this conversation, and I think most people devalue, is that You and I and Will and anyone else who contribute to this conversation are pouring into a pool of experience that we can come up with solutions. Say you and I made 100 mistakes each, and so is Will. Our 100 mistake each equates to 300, and a vast majority of that won't be the same mistake. But we know the experience, and we can pour in and say, look, these are the mistakes that we've gone through. Here's the lessons we found. What most people are reluctant to do is, let me share with you my mistake. You might have to go through it on your own, but if you can take and adopt this and be observant of these things in reality, you can do yourself a huge favor. You don't have to fail at the same thing I failed at. You can actually use that as a stepping stone. Be observant, because you can make this observation very clearly. I used to do this thing where I'd in my younger days, I'd go to the club and I'll be very observant. I'll get drunk and do all of that sort of shit. But I'll be observant on how women moved, who they gravitated to, how they talk, what their mannerism were. And I did that firstly in the clubs, and then I did that everywhere else. And that's a big part of what we as men need to adopt is we've got to develop whatever solutions that brings us closer to the result that we want ultimately. If it's a family you want, I am telling you now that your life would be a lot more easier, and you'd be focused more on the things that is much more important to you if you find a woman that is going to be obedient to you. But she cannot be obedient to you if you haven't figured out what authority is, what leadership is, and how to stand on that, even when the chips are down, and even when you've got, like you say, the influence of the government in those dealings. I deal in the same environment. Our laws aren't very much different. We get hit, but we get hit in a very different way. The big difference that we have is that oftentimes our relationship to our community, especially our extended family, is still there. So should I be hit, there's the option of going back to mum and dad, or find part of the family members and go back to square one. But the ultimately the answer to a vast majority of these things needs to be discussed. And again, I like to come from the idea of arrogance, because the idea of apex aligns with my idea of ego and arrogance. In order for you to have arrogance, you have to be absolutely confident in your ability to be competent in the first place. If you're not, that's ignorance, and ignorance usually breeds destruction. So, look, the dating market is overflooded seemingly with one particular type of woman. What my thing is when I speak in the panels is, please do not flood to social media where the vast majority of the conversation is only painting you one particular picture. Because as much as we like to blame media for the way that it influences us, unfortunately social media will do the same thing to you too, especially these YouTube spaces. Be out in reality. Go and socialize if you're part of a work network out in that, and go out and actually see for yourself what the reality is. Most people would date probably one or two, especially if they're towards their 30s or late 40s. They would date one or two people, get absolutely destroyed, and think that's the entirety of the women that are out there. But that's not the case. Be relentless. Again, this whole idea had to have the dog in you, or whatever the saying goes, is be relentless. If it's the outcome you want as a long-term marriage and children, then you have to be relentless. You've got to be relentless in how you pursue it, and be extremely observant of the women that you come across. So yeah, equally yoked is a term that comes to mind. So unfortunately, that's the environment that most people are painting, and I can't say for sure that this is what life is. But again, ladies and gentlemen, it has come to the end of the show, and our host, Will Nakuzi, has dipped out earlier than anticipated. But if you've been watching the show and you find this sort of conversation up your alley, we do this in my time Thursday or Friday, and on Will's time in the Bay Area every Thursday. We appreciate each and everyone that's come through, dropped a chat, a super chat, and have hung out in the chat. I'd seen everyone who's had messages, and unfortunately I've been engrossed in the conversation that I haven't replied to any one of you. But again, as always, we appreciate that you're tuning in and that you're giving us your time wherever you are in the world, and that you are providing a perspective. If you want to support the show, one of the best way to do it, if you haven't subscribe to Will's channel and like the stream so that we promote the algorithm. Tell a friend to tell a friend, and again, we appreciate everyone that's come through. We will see you next week for another conversation on the masculine mind.